Hello, and welcome to Plateau TV, Episode 2, where we talk about the TV that's worth your time. And so today we're going to be talking about the latest episode, whatever you want to call it, for Twin Peaks. And we're also going to talk about Justified, a series that was on FX that ended a couple years ago that is absolutely worth your time. And of course, we'll get into several other topics as we do. I can't remember. I think Jay was bringing up like obscure TV shows last week, so this is there's not a firm format. But Jay, how are you doing?
Good, man. Doing well. I've watched the part 5 a couple times now, and I watched with Cameron's commentary as well. So I think I'm prepared to at least propose quite a few questions. I have a notepad of questions over here. So
very good. And yes, we are also joined tonight by Cameron from Obnoxious and Anonymous. I've been a participant on his show many times now, and
we're pretty much all inbred at this point.
Yeah. It's a bunch of crossovers and things of that nature.
But I love it when I go on YouTube and I see one YouTuber and another YouTuber I like have a video together. I'm like, it gets me really excited.
Sure.
It gets me excited. It's obviously not the same thing, but it's kind of like why I don't understand why, the superhero stuff isn't cross-pollinating and crossing over more. Like, I just think that's far more like the original Iron Man movie, for example, I like very much. Very good movie, very entertaining. Robert Downey Jr. is awesome. But I just think, the Avengers, where that character plays off of, 6 other people, is just so much more entertaining to me. Like, I get more out of that. Now, I am not comparing us to the Avengers, of course, but I'm just agreeing that it's definitely more interesting to see those personalities play off.
I compared the Sausage Factory to the Avengers because it was like 6 different YouTube channels coming together.
Yeah.
One thing I want to point out, or not point out, one thing that I wanted to bring up, because you are going to talk about Justified. This is not Justified related, though, but still made me think, when the heck are we going to get at least a word about The Shield coming out on Blu-ray? They announced it, and I've never heard anything since.
It's definitely work, because it's funny. I think you brought that up with me once. You and I talk offline sometimes, and I think you've mentioned that just sort of in passing to me, and I started digging into it. And yeah, you're right, because I think I saw Sean Ryan comment on it. Sean Ryan is the creator of The Shield, and I don't know, man. I think because it's owned by Sony, and Sony's got some issues going on right now. I don't know
to talk about Sony.
If they release it on Blu-ray, can we get a clean version?
Yeah. Well, actually, didn't they already sort of do that for The Shield? Because weren't The Shield reruns airing on like the CW for a little while? I seem to remember The Shield airing not reruns on FX, but there were like edited versions somewhere.
You may be thinking about Dexter, because Dexter played on CBS after playing on Showtime. And then they realized that was a terrible idea, and they scrapped it halfway through season 1.
Well, if I remember correctly, and maybe they had the idea already, but the idea of putting Dexter on CBS was born out of A, they wanted to try it, but B, wasn't that the same year as the writer's strike? So that was something they were using to fill time. Like, it was like, hey, there's stuff that we have that people could watch, and let's see what happens. And then, it wasn't great, but it filled.
And while they were doing that crummy job, Joss Whedon was directing Dr. Horrible during that time, and releasing that and actually providing something good to the world.
That's true. Very true. But before we get too deep into stuff like that and Justified, or even Twin Peaks, which again will take a little bit of attention, what have you guys watched over the past week? What was worth your time this past week? Jay, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I think I know pretty much all Cameron's going to say. So I know one thing he's watched quite a bit, at least. Let's see, man. I've got started on Flaked season 2. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's Netflix.
It stars God, his name's escaping me, but Job from Arrested Development. That's he's in. I gave it 1 or 2 episodes. It didn't grab me, but if you've made it to season 2, maybe it's worth diving back in.
It kind of ended on a cliffhanger, is why I just want some closure there. But
right,
I'm still on the fence. I don't want to say recommend it to anyone, but it's kind of a downer show because it's about alcoholism and a lot of AA meetings and stuff like that, and just a lot of kind of downer things when you say Will Arnett, you immediately think comedy, but
Right.
it's really more of a drama than anything. But
Right.
yeah.
I think honestly, I think that was why I bailed out.
Mhm.
Is I was expecting something else, and it turned out not
I can
to
totally
be
see
that.
that.
Yeah.
He's
I mean, that doesn't mean it isn't good, but for whatever it's you go in with certain expectations, and it was a little bit of why I think the first time I saw like Unbreakable, I didn't really like it because like I don't know what I expected that movie to be, but I didn't expect it to be some sort of real world scenario of the creation of a superhero. That was not what I expected, and so, but a fantastic movie now. So yeah, maybe I'll get back into Flight.
I'm trying to think the area where that's filmed in California. Maybe you guys can help me. Venice Beach.
Venice Beach.
So it's I'm not very familiar with Venice Beach.
It's down by LA.
It it really explores the local stuff there. So
I did like that about it. I actually did like the location shooting. I almost always give a show or a movie extra credit when it's very clear that it's being filmed not in LA or not in New York or not in one of the other or British Columbia. Like when it seems like it's actually some real place that's
that HBO show. What was that HBO show with Reese Witherspoon? That's filmed in my town.
Oh yeah.
In Monterey, yeah.
Yeah, and people here were very, very upset because because what they portrayed as this community is not at all the way the community is. So
Right.
they said, well, the argument was they could film here, no problem, but can they just change the name because that's not what it's like here? And they were making it seem like it was like that's what the community was like, and it's not. So, so there was some controversy here when it started airing. Like, well, wait a minute here.
Is that show any good, by the way? Have you guys seen it?
I don't know. I mean, I've heard some mixed things about it.
I was going to get started on it. And,
I had planned to watch it, and for whatever it ran out of time. It didn't make the list. I never got it because it's on HBO. I figured I could revisit it at any point.
Sure.
So.
And Eric, you're talking about TV here. For the first time, I mean, like it's been like this for a few years now, but we are at a golden age in television where there's just too much to watch.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't watch it now, there's a part of me that says just wait till it's over and then binge watch the series, because like sometimes it's just you realize, oh, I should start watching that show, and next thing you know it's season 5 of that show and you're like, ugh. I'll just wait till it's over.
There's sort of a sword's edge with that though, because if you don't, depending where it's airing, even if it's on Netflix, not watching it hurts it because you're not giving it that the viewership, and it might not make it to a season 5. But I get what you're saying though, is that if a show does start going, it kind of gets to a point where it's like, ugh, it's so much work to get caught up. I got other things going on. Again, I've been bugging Jay about getting caught up on like Better Call Saul and this most recent season of Fargo. But yeah, I know, I get it, and it's a good point. I think in the case of the HBO show, and especially that, I thought that was a limited series. Like is that supposed to be a multiple season?
No, it's a 1 season show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we have an extra participant
noob in here.
Yeah. It looks like Orc has joined.
Noob as fuck, bro. Am I allowed to swear on this? Is this 13 hangout? We doing Sony or what?
Hey, how are you doing, Orc?
I'm doing pretty good,
you're actually the perfect guy to get in this conversation.
He's
What
been
have you
busy
been watching
lately.
lately? You've been watching everything lately.
Yeah,
I've been basically giving you lists of shows to watch.
I watched the pilot of Westworld today. It was awesome. Ed Harris is just like, well, I don't want to give away spoilers. I forgot, it's for TV and movies, same shit. Ed Harris and Anthony Hopkins are just badasses. And there's a lot of people who I may have seen them or may not have seen them before, but like the lead tech lady is really awesome too. I like that actress. There's like the British guy. Oh, there's a lot of great actors and actresses in that show.
Yeah.
Shailene Woodward, is that her name? No,
I have no idea what her name is.
Yeah.
Shailene Woodley is on the show we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's the Raising Hope. Did y'all ever see that show? The girls on Raising Hope.
I can't remember her name either, but that is the girl. Because I was watching it with my wife, and I always find it funny. Like, I can name characters left and right. It's like, oh, that was the guy on that one Law and Order episode with the dog or whatever. And I was like, God, I can't figure out who that girl is. And my wife was like, that's the girl from Raising Hope. was like, oh my god, yes, it is her. So yeah, you you got it. What else have you been checking out, Orc? Again, I've been giving you like a whole laundry list of shows to watch. I want to hear how you're coming along.
I'm just memeing like usual. I saw Eastbound and Down, a few episodes of that. Vice Principals.
Nice.
You guys seem to like
Oh, yeah.
that. I fucking love that show. It's amazing. What else have I been checking out? I'm drawing a blank. Shameless. I like that. It's really dark comedy, but it's I find it hilarious. It's pretty good.
And the girl from Phantom of the Opera is naked in it a lot. That was something I always.
Is she the main Caucasian chick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love her character. What else have I been watching? Shit. Oh, and Trailer Park Boys. I've almost done. There's only 6 episodes in the first season, but I've watched like the first 4, and that shit's hilarious.
Nice. I think my brother-in-law gave me the DVDs for that. And I'm pretty sure they're still in the plastic wrap. I don't know that I ever opened it. I
know this guy from Alabama. He's like, man, you gotta fucking check out Trailer Park Boys. It's the shit. I'm telling you. And then eventually I was like, okay, because he met a few of them in character when they do their live their live shows.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll check it out, see what it's about. And I saw like the first 2 episodes, and I just died laughing. So funny.
Nice. Very nice. Well,
that's pretty
Cameron,
much it, though.
Other than Twin Peaks, what have you been enjoying the past week or so?
I actually just kind of peruse Netflix and just like watch an episode here or there. I'm not like watching any other show consistently right now. Obviously Twin Peaks is on, but I know in a few weeks Game of Thrones is starting, so I can't get like bogged down in too many series at one time because that's a lot of timelines I got to keep track of, and I got like 47 of them. 47 of them on Twin Peaks alone. So I have to,
yeah.
There's too much to keep track of. And then Game of Thrones is going to introduce like probably 60 more characters this year. So I have to figure out who's related to who and all that stuff. So
I'm going to have to catch up on that timeline, man.
And HBO is like said what? There's going to be 17 prequel series they're making of Game of Thrones.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, they've got pilot scripts apparently for about 5 different prequels.
Jay, you can't break any computers tonight, okay, buddy?
Oh, man.
I gotta be honest, like I'm not enthusiastic really about any of that, and that's not to say I'm not a fan. Like I'm actually a pretty big fan of spinoffs. Like I actually think it's really cool. Like when you look at like the way spinoffs work, where like Archie Bunker made Maude and the Jeffersons, and then like the Jeffersons made Gloria, and then like there's just like I love when you get like this web of shows.
But it also created Archie Bunker's Place.
I don't mind Archie Bunker. There are good episodes of Archie Bunker.
I didn't mind Three's a Crowd either. Okay, but
wow, we're going deep tracks on this now.
Hey, Jack and Vicky were fun. We're great. I like them as a couple.
I always remember the True Hollywood Story of Three's Company, and it always ends with like and then Three's a Crowd, and talking about how they did that show and they cut out. Oh gosh, I forget the original actor. But basically, they cut out like the original cast. They just created like a new show for Jack Tripper and these new people, and all the original characters just got like left behind, and they were all pissed off about it.
You know what's funny about that show? I watched it when I was like 5 years old. I loved it, but I never understood the gay angle. Like I never so all the comedy was just over my head, but still love the show.
There's so much like that. I think I've always talked. My prime example is always, and I think I've mentioned this to you guys before. Ghostbusters. To me, Ghostbusters is like one of the best movies that does that, where there's really this angle that kids can watch the movie, and I think for young kids it probably can be scary, but generally speaking, it's there's that level where they're shooting laser guns and there's ghosts and there's monsters, and you do get some of the lowbrow humor, but then there's like certain like adult jokes that as a kid you wouldn't understand. And the scene with Peter and Dana where she's possessed by Zool, and she says, "I want you inside of me."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Go ahead." Oh no, wait! It seems like you got at least 2 people in there already. I remember being like 20 years old and like watching that scene again and being like, oh my god, that's hilarious! Like,
Yeah,
when you
I
just
totally
said
missed
that
that for
line,
years.
every time I'm watching a movie or anything like Mulholland Drive or anything like that, my mom and my brother walk into the room and I'm like, all right, this is fucking awkward as fuck.
But there's even stuff in like Stand By Me, which I mean, it's like for kids, and yet when you're older and you look at it, it's like, oh, that's what they were talking about. Like you just didn't pick it up, even though you're supposed to be 10 years old when you saw that movie.
Yeah.
I still didn't understand some of the things that they were talking about.
And as part of the rule of the, the Sausage Factory extended universe, everything needs to come back to Friday the 13th at some point.
Sure.
Well,
When I
that's
was younger,
after. Well, that's after this podcast, right? You guys all meet on that video game stream.
Well, yeah, there's the video game too. But when I was younger and I was watching, I think I like rented some of the Friday the 13th movies for like the 50th time, and I was with my aunts and my uncle, and somehow they were talking about one thing, and I heard my uncle go, like, I heard someone say like reference the C word. They didn't say it, but they said that. And I was like, oh gosh, what's the C word? And they're like, no, you're not hearing what that is. But then I was in the living room watching Friday the 13th Part 7, and the scene with the guy, I forget his name, but the one that like the really like the kind of hot snooty chick.
Yeah.
Like she turns him down. She's using him to try and get Nick to notice her or whatever. He's like reading her card to him, and then at the end he says, cunt. I remember my uncle just happened to be walking by and he goes, hey, the C word. And I was like, that's it.
Oh, that's it.
My aunts lost it, and it was this whole big thing. But anyway, yes.
Yeah, is it me or I mean the C word? It didn't used to be as like taboo as it is now. I mean, do you guys remember that? Like,
I'll
they
be
never
honest,
said it in movies.
Yeah, like other than that, like I don't remember ever hearing that like in a movie or show. Like that's kind of the one thing I can think of. And then it's really more in more modern, maybe the last 5 or 10 years that I've heard that word crop up.
Short segue, I game with a lot of people from the UK and Australia, and I hear that shit all the time. What the fuck are you doing? They just came and killed us, you fucking cunt. I'm like, okay. Sorry, mate. Great
Well,
mate.
I think their accents can work that word a little better. Like it almost sounds refined.
Well, but it's also like, you watch they play a British show on TV here, and they're just always, bloody this, bloody that. Whereas over there, that means fuck.
right.
Yeah.
Right. But they play it over here, and it's like, well, they're not saying the F word, they're saying this other word. Yeah, but that word means that.
There's like an episode of Arrested Development that actually does that, where a character calls someone like a pussy, and then they do like a cutaway to like this British, this like faux British movie, and it's like, oh darling, you're such a pussy. Like just like playing off on that. I always thought that was a funny.
Oh, that's another one I watched the pilot of, even though it's like 22 minutes long, and I couldn't believe when was the first year of the first season. What year did that come out? Because Michael Cera, I couldn't believe how young he was.
Yeah, Arrested Development was 2003.
2003. Yeah, then it was cool to see David Cross on that show too.
Oh man,
that show has it's the extended cast on that show, and even just the people that put in cameos. It's shocking to see the names that pop up on that series.
blah blah blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Well, that was one of the reasons why they thought that they wouldn't be able to come back and do another season, because of how popular so many of those people had become.
Right. I mean, heck, Charlize Theron had like a multi-episode arc in the 3rd season, and now she's like, she's in Mad Max, and I mean, she was doing movies back then too. But you try and think like, I don't think she's gonna be showing up on the Netflix show anytime soon.
Yeah, it's. I'm not trying to segue this or anything, but it's kind of similar to Twin Peaks. You see, gosh, it's.
Yes.
I mean, like it's like the guy has like 3 seconds on screen, and it's like a huge actor.
Well, you brought that up, Eric. That one guy from Walking Dead shows up for half a second.
Oh man, it's
Yes.
nuts.
Yes. Oh God, I can't remember his name now. I think I'm trying to block that show out of my
You really fell off on that one. Gosh, I can't believe it. You were all about it like a season ago.
No, exactly. The dude with the mullet who's always off on your good hair game. He literally appeared like when Dale like won his first machine in the casino. He basically just pops up and was like, hey, right on, man.
Hang on, can
I don't have any expectation to see him again. Well,
can we get a real talk, Jay?
Folks.
Oh, real talk.
We have a genuine celebrity here.
Who the fuck is this guy right here?
as well from the Sausage Factory and his own prolific network of videos has joined us. Hey,
He looks like a king on his throne over there.
he does a little bit.
The Piz father.
Uh-oh. Hey, Piz, are you muted?
He has no sound.
Just waiting to meme.
No,
I think he's waiting to scold you, Easy.
He's
Ah,
pissed,
okay, yeah.
man.
He's mad. I'm doing my own show. Hey, you got to fix your sound problems, dude. We'll let Piz work out his sound. But actually, Jay, it was a pretty good segue, because actually we probably should dig into Twin Peaks a little bit. Twin Peaks Part 5 aired this past Sunday after a 2-week break, which I have to say was I think it was probably okay, because we really did need to think about and analyze and go through those first 4 episodes multiple times. But I think it was cruel to give us, after 27 years, 4 episodes, and then make us wait 2 weeks before we could get new ones.
But how many times did you watch those first 4? Like at least 3 or 4 times. So
at least, yeah. Because there, I watched them, like just in preparation to talk with you on your channel about some things. I watched them in preparation for this show, and then I just watched them because I like. The thing is when I watch an episode the first time, like some people like to turn on closed captioning. I don't like to watch it the first way that way. I want to be able to see the whole screen unobstructed. So I watched it after that fact with closed captioning, because I knew there was dialogue that I was just like so focused and just pulled into everything that I was missing. So that actually helped a lot. Like I watched the scene with Doppel Cooper in the hotel room when he's on the phone with the guy who is not Philip Jeffries. Like I was like, reading very carefully through the dialogue in that scene, because
and one of the clues is you need to watch the end credits of every episode.
Yes.
Because there's characters' names in there that are not said. Like we would never know that guy in the bar was Richard Horn.
Let's not jump ahead though. But
Okay.
yes, it that's true of episodes 1 through 4 as well. But So actually, Cameron, I'd say you're the resident expert, our special guest just for Twin Peaks.
Oh.
What were your thoughts on Twin Peaks Part 4?
Bull crap!
There he is. Sounds back.
I think we should let Piz talk first.
He's gonna leave now.
What'd you
Just
think?
ignore, just ignore me. I'm going to sit here and stare at you guys judgmentally, and occasionally I'm going to blurt out things like that during the show.
Okay.
Proceed.
You can't be like me, Piz. Fuck off. No.
Well, Cameron, it sounds like you have a window. Make the most of it.
Oh, good. I like the episode. I think that it was interesting because just having one episode, it did feel like we had kind of an incomplete night that Sunday because we had 4 that first Sunday.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. Obviously, Lynch and Frost are definitely trolling us, and I loved it. All that stuff with Jacoby's shovels.
Yes.
I mean, we had talked about it. What could he be doing? No, he's just selling them, which is great.
It's like an Alex Jones-esque, internet
I
commenter.
am convinced though that Nadine will buy one and kill either Ed or Norma with it.
Oh, you think it's the old, you show a gun in the first act and we're gonna that's gonna pay off later.
I think yourself out of the shit.
I think there's that, and I think the other thing is that they keep bringing up Harry Truman over and over and over again. Yeah. I think he's coming back, at least like in a cameo.
I think so too. Like the only thing I can think of though, if he's not, is they're doing this to set up that Harry died or something, and they'll have a funeral for him.
But what I'm saying is Robert Forster. The reason why I think the fans are really cool with him in this is because he's not playing Sheriff Truman,
right?
Sure.
Because we're not comparing him with Michael Onke, and he's the brother. So we're okay with that.
And he's amazing.
Obviously the amount of 7s that are going on in this show is insane. And the fact that Mark Frost wrote a book called The List of 7. The amount of 16s going on in this episode is crazy. Like if you look at this picture on the wall, the dice adds up to 16. They talk about 16 insurance claims, 16 hits on Major Briggs' fingerprints. And then the guy who plays Cooper's boss, Don Murray, hasn't acted in 16 years. I mean, that's insane.
I see, but you were talking about trolling, like they were trolling us with Jacoby. I was reading something the other day that they're perhaps trolling us with all the numbers. They've been throwing a ton of numbers at us.
Right.
I think
And
it's all
the
bullshit.
idea,
I don't think
Right,
it means
that.
anything.
well,
I don't.
okay,
I don't
yeah,
think it means
exactly.
anything. But what I'm saying though is they're throwing a lot at us, and you can either think it's something or not think it's something. I don't know, but I'm just saying there's a lot of levels going on here.
Right.
Even if they're trolling us, those are trolling levels.
I mean, I've never had to watch a show like multiple times and just look at things like in the backgrounds of scenes and be like, oh shit,
Yeah.
what's that over there? Oh, that's that from this episode over here.
Well, like for instance, there's that great cutaway shot of those three showgirls, right? When Belushi and Nepper are beating up that casino guy. The middle one is Amy Shields, who's going to be a huge part of this show. And yet she's just this cutaway character in the background, that's never even brought up.
I love that too.
The fact that
awesome.
the fact that what's her name? Becky, Amanda Seyfried, right?
Oh, yeah.
You would never know until you see the end credits that she's actually married to that crackhead, that Macaulay Culkin looking guy.
Oh, is
that's
she?
true.
Okay.
I didn't actually notice that in the credits. I read that in an article, and then I went back and looked at the credits, and I was like, "Holy crap!
Yeah.
They are married." I thought they were just, like
dating
together or whatever.
Because he's not wearing a wedding ring. And what's really weird is that all these minor characters all have middle names and last names in the end credits, and then it says Machen Amick, Shelley.
Yeah.
Not Shelley Johnson, not Shelley Briggs, Shelley.
Oh, that's funny.
Wasn't it just Shelley in the original series too?
No, she was Shelley Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it was.
Yeah, but they're not letting in who if she's married, if she was married, or whatever. And I love the fact that the credits, even the Rancho Rosa sign at the beginning of the show, is changing every episode to reflect different letters. It's so like,
By the way, just two things. One, the guy who plays Amanda Seyfried's husband is Caleb Landry Jones, the actor Caleb Landry Jones. And I knew he looked friggin' familiar to me, and I haven't actually even looked it up yet, but I'm figuring one of my good cinephile friends here. What is he from? Because he's
Antiviral.
That was it. Okay.
Film Antiviral.
Okay.
That's what I recommended to you, Cameron, earlier. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
No,
Yaga.
But I don't like all this talk about how Amanda Seyfried's going to be the new Laura Palmer and that type of thing. It's like, look, there's Teresa Banks as Laura Palmer. If she's a victim, she's a victim, but she's not going to be Laura Palmer.
It's too on the nose anyway. They would never.
It's the simplistic kind of analysis you're going to get from just some of these very superficial sources.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's a blonde girl and she's doing drugs and she's with kind of a weird guy. Like, oh, that must be Laura Palmer.
Well, let me talk about my favorite theory that is never going to happen, but it gets me super, super duper excited. And that is the fact that we get introduced to this character, Richard Horn, right? And everyone's speculating about who the dad is. He looks a lot like David Patrick Kelly, who plays Jerry. But my hope, this will never happen, but my hope is that the doppelganger had his way with Audrey. That's their son. And then the fact that Cooper and Annie got together, and then they had a daughter named Linda, and that's Richard and Linda, the two stones born from, the two birds born from one stone, which would be Cooper. And if Cooper and the doppelganger both had Richard and Linda with two different of the girls, I don't know where you would go with that, but that would be amazing. Which, I mean, they're not going to do that. I mean, if anything, Audrey's pregnant from John Justice Wheeler, or John Thorne's idea, the guy who created Wrapped in Plastic magazine, was that it's Donna's son. But I can't see Donna raising a kid like that. James would kick his ass.
Well, we're assuming
the best movie ever, and I'm sure you guys will all agree, is Throw Mama from the Train.
and Ramsey rocks, man.
The other point I wanted to mention, because you brought him up, was Jim Belushi's appearance finally. And
I hate him, by the way.
I have a I have a theory, though. I think I've said this theory to you guys before and it's about comedians in dramas or comedians in horror or suspense type movies. They can be intimidating as hell.
Did you never see The Principal?
Well, I know that's a pretty epic role of his, and I have seen that movie. That is a good movie. But I just mean, when I think of Jim Belushi now, I think of According to Jim, right? You know, he's like this big pudgy white guy. Courtney Thorne-Smith is his wife, and oh, Jim, what'd you do this time? Like,
hey, Bruce, no fat shaming, please. Okay? Jesus.
And you know, he just, first of all, he had like 3 lines.
Fat shaming, I'm out.
He had 3 lines, and then he leans down, and it's like, I got chills. Jim Belushi gave me chills. Like I can't get more from that character.
Eric, I'll tell you what. When you watch Roseanne, John Goodman is just a wonderful, happy. He's a great guy. But but there are moments in that show, and there's other movies where he's in where when he gets serious, John Goodman at like 10 Cloverfield Lane, he scares me.
Yeah.
I got another one, and a lot of people say it sucks compared to the original, but The Gambler, that fucking movie, he fucking nails it out of the park. And in one scene, he's like, "If you fuck with me and you don't pay me back, I will kill off your whole family and your entire bloodline."
Yep.
It's in the trailer. It's epic. But
I mean, John Goodman can make me laugh and be like, "Oh, he's like my dad." And then other times, I mean, when he would like throw a chair in Roseanne and be like, "Shut up, darling," it was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
You know,
I'm thinking specifically of the episode where like what is it, Aunt the hell, where the Roseanne's sister gets like beaten. Aunt Jackie gets like beaten by her boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
And then like Dan, like he just gets like this look just like comes over his face, and he leaves. And I just remember being like really like, holy shit. And it's a testament. John Goodman was just a fantastic. He is a fantastic actor, and he brought a lot to that role. And
when you see 10 Cloverfield Lane, it again just makes you go, this guy needs to be cast in more things because he's excellent.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know what's funny is because I think there are actors like John Goodman where they started out in comedy, and they're sort of now being known for more intense dramatic roles. And then there are roles like, then there's people like Sam Elliott. And I feel like Sam Elliott has gone the opposite direction, where he was always in kind of serious, kind of badass roles, and now he's appearing like he's in his own Netflix sitcom now, and he was a really funny character on Parks and Recreation.
And if he hadn't died, I think a comedian from my generation growing up that I think would have transitioned into movies really well as a serious dramatic actor would be Sam Kinison. I think Kinison would have by this time. I think he would be he'd be on something like Fargo.
Yeah. Why? Because you know what? I almost feel like he's like the prototype of like Louis C.K. like that kind of approach. So and again, I think Louis C.K. what he does is is that like it can be very comedic and drop dead hilarious, and then there are some episodes of like his show that aren't really funny at all, but they're still really engaging and draw you in.
Right. That show, it's kind of like what you were saying about Flaked. A huge fan of Louis C.K. Have been for years, and this show comes out and it's kind of like deadpan, dark comedy when there is any comedy at all.
Yeah,
and it just didn't hit me right, man. I watched maybe half the first season, and I didn't watch any other episodes till like maybe a couple of years ago. And I watched, I got caught up for having 4 seasons or whatever.
I think season 1, it's amazing. Like just to that point though, I think season 1 of Louis is probably funnier holistically than some of the other seasons. I think like he did that like, to be honest, that's I think why some of the later episodes where it's like not funny for long stretches, it kind of threw me, because I was expecting one thing from this series, and he started getting more experimental. Cat cam. And he started getting experimental like as the show's gone on, which I'm not complaining about, but it kind of, it's an acquired taste. Like I don't know that you just accept it right away.
I like when he babysits the kid and he shits in the bathtub. You see that part?
Here's a quick question. Louis, I saw the pilot for that too a long time ago. It's pretty good. I like him as a comedian. I like his style, like Bill Burr, people like that. I wasn't really a fan of him because I was still young. But is Dice any good on Showtime?
I haven't seen it. But I think it's getting like a second season, so it must have met some minimum.
Almost everything on Showtime gets a second season if it wants it. Hey, that could be good news for ratings injured Twin Peaks. No, you deflated that the other day on my Facebook post. You said it's not coming back, and it probably won't, and that's fine with me. I really.
All right, moment. How are the ratings doing for Twin Peaks?
Watching wise, really shitty. Streaming wise, through the roof.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like they drove a lot of like Showtime web signups, and streaming views are really good, but live, like they're getting their ass kicked by like Silicon Valley.
I
I
don't watch
I think
anything
CB
live. I watch like maybe a basketball game. That's like the only thing I
Right.
watch live now.
I think
But-
CBS owns Showtime. Are they is the parent company happy though with the results so far? Or
well, yeah, they're thrilled because they're getting just write-ups all the time. But even if you go on the Showtime.com and watch it on your Roku, like the live feed,
Yeah.
that still counts as a streaming.
gotcha.
Yeah.
It's only through your digital cable that it counts as, right. So who the hell's doing that? Nobody. So so all these write-ups that are saying it's terrible, it's getting terrible views, which I agree with. It is getting terrible views, but not really. It's only that.
Well, it's only one part of the picture.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with Jay. Like Jay is a huge college sports fan, and I'm pretty sure if there wasn't sports that you were following on TV, you'd probably just cut cable, wouldn't you?
I would, man. If it was only up to me, I definitely would.
well, if you
I would
have-
cut, a long time ago.
Well, for $25, you can get the whole Sling TV option, right? And you can, I mean, that would just eliminate all cable.
Well, you can get some sports options, but it's kind of a limited subset through Sling TV.
Oh, okay.
You can get like ESPN. I think you can even get like ESPN College, ESPN2, and there's some other sports networks that are baked into that, but it's still not as developed as like what a cable TV package has. But
That's
I
the
guess
thing.
it just depends how discerning you are or what it is you're looking for.
But
The
my
17
wife just-
ESPNs.
Yeah, my wife just cares about, do we get the Food Network and HGTV? That's all she
Nailed
cares
it.
about.
You nailed two of them right there.
Yeah, my wife add Bravo to the list.
As long as we can see Fixer Upper and she gets to see the barefoot contessa, we're good.
The picture of you have to sit through that shit.
Your wife
too.
and my wife should hang out apparently, because goddamn.
Yeah.
No. The best is Jay posted this on Twitter. The best is when it's like, okay, I'm a dentist and she's a garbage worker, and then it's like, how much do we have for a house? $1 million.
No, it was something stupid. It wasn't nearly as prolific as a dentist though.
No, actually the tweet was better than that. It was sort of like, I'm a dentist and you're like a construction worker.
No, I'm
And our
like a
budget
rock
is like
climber and I'm a
3.5
food
million.
blogger.
I know,
Something like that.
I know we'll get back to Twin Peaks eventually, but I just want to throw this out. I'm really super excited that HBO is remastering in HD Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They're remastering it, and then so that it coincides with the new series. They're
Yeah.
gonna bring it back. But hey, if anything, we'll get actual Blu-rays of Fraggle Rock, which will be amazing.
We haven't. I don't know that we've touched on Fraggle Rock yet. See,
No,
Cameron, this is
no.
why you're a good addition. I do appreciate the the extra content.
Listen, I've watched a lot of TV in my day. Let me tell you.
But let's
Watched a lot of Fraggle
transition
Rock.
over to Jay, because Jay had a lot of questions.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that's actually probably good for
Good.
sparking
Yeah,
further.
I had a lot of points I was going to mention there during that conversation, but just real quick, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, let's say you record the show on DVR, and then you watch that within it's like a set number of days you have to watch it within. That counts as a watch, right? Like,
As a
not a
stream.
streaming.
Is a
That
stream.
counts as a stream,
Well,
Oh.
not really. You're just recording it. I mean, it wasn't on.
right? But
Yeah.
That is
Doesn't it?
being tracked. If you're using a box from the cable company, they are tracking that somehow, but I
Yeah.
don't know how they categorize it. So they know if people are doing it, but I just don't know. I don't think it counts as a live view. Is that I'm
Well-
sure of, but I don't know whether it counts as streaming or if they have some other category for it.
yeah, I had heard in the past. I don't know where I heard this, but somewhere fairly credible, I hope. That if you watch it within like a certain number of days, it counts as a watch for the show. You know,
Well, perfect.
not like a.
Yeah.
But I mean, even like a show like this, like I'm not even gonna take the time to put it on the DVR because it's on the app. I'm just gonna watch it on the app.
Yeah.
Yeah, and check the app because obviously some moron works there and at Sky Atlantic, because all of a sudden out of nowhere you'll hear Sweden got episode 6 early, like a week early or something. They'll drop it and
Oh,
they'll
does
have
that
it
happen now?
No, but I mean it's happened with episode 5. Germany got it a week and a half early.
Yeah.
It just
And actually
dropped
with-
on.
With part 5, I actually, and it was funny, like I was able to watch it, except I wasn't. Like episode 5 was available through I have like the Xfinity app on my phone, So I get like on demand there. I could watch it on my phone. It was not on my TV box. It was not in the Showtime app. But I was able to watch like 10 minutes of that episode before I decided, you know what, nah, I don't want to watch it on the big screen and get the full experience. But and I wanted to bring this up because I want to make sure Cameron gets his due credit. I watched long enough to see Cameron's persistent belief burn out. So. And again, this is sort of bad storytelling from a video perspective. You know, treating us like an independent channel. In Twin Peaks, you know, the character of Dale Cooper has been, you know, there's three of them technically now, but you know, the two main ones, Dale Cooper, good guy, FBI agent, and then Doppelganger Cooper, the entity from the Black Lodge. That when the original series ended, you know, he smashed his face in a mirror and we saw, you know, evil demon Bob looking back at him. You know, he was possessed, he was bad. And then, you know, the series ended. And then, you know, here 27 years later, you know, we now pick up the story. I was not convinced that I thought rather that the idea of the doppelganger, like Cooper's dark half, was its own entity separate from Bob. I still believe that, by the way.
It is
based on the dialogue, but
it
then right, and it is, and so there was an episode in part 5 that actually addresses this head on, where the character looks in a mirror, and actually a pretty slick kind of commingling of CGI and shadows. Kyle MacLachlan's face morphs into the face of deceased actor Frank Silva, who portrayed the character of you know, Demon Bob, Killer Bob. But he says in the mirror, "You're still with me. That's good." So Bob is still inside of him. The nature of their relationship is somewhat more complex than perhaps we even fully know yet, but that was confirmed.
Well, let me throw this out. I think that Bob is inside of him, but can move about. You know what I mean? I don't.
Right.
Whereas when he was with Leland, he firmly like possessed Leland. He was like dormant inside of him and could come out. Whereas I think with a doppelganger, he can kind of be summoned like a genie. You know what I mean? That's just my perception of it.
Cameron, for our Canadian viewers, you mean move freely about?
Yes, exactly. but there was a woman named Stephanie who came onto my podcast yesterday that gave me a humdinger of information that I was just like, I didn't even think about that, because when the doppelganger in episode 3, when he's in the car, right, and he's about to throw up the cream corn and oil, he holds his mouth. He holds his mouth because he doesn't want to throw up, right?
Yeah.
And then he throws up so much that when he's in the mirror, and it's Bob that asks him, "Are you with me?" Not the doppelganger to Bob. Is it possible that they were that one of them was worried that he had puked up too much garmonbozia and that he lost one, or one of them lost the other? Because he says, "Are you still?" Because he did not want to throw up, right? So yeah. I think that also played a factor. And obviously, I mean, the doppelganger. That's why the doppelganger, I think, too, is a little off in the jail. Like hello, Gordon. I mean, he's just like he's operating at a slower.
I am waiting to be debriefed by you. Although he seemed better this episode. Like he was sort of talking.
Yeah, it was
normal as he does talk.
Well, yeah, and him making that phone call. I mean, it was just like, holy crap! And I thought that he was going to go through the phone, you know, like use electricity to buzz himself out. But
I'll be honest, like I was I don't know what I expected when that scene kicked off. Mm-hmm. Like the kind of towards the end of the episode when he dials the number and sets the whole prison alarms firing, all this shit happening. I thought, yeah, could he go through the phone? Was he all of a sudden going to appear in the control room with the people?
Right.
Like that's the beautiful thing I think about Twin Peaks in general, but this new series, The Return, whatever, is that I have my expectations. I have no idea what's going on, so I really don't know what to expect. You know, if I'm being, but by the way, I mean that in a complimentary way. Right. But I'm just. Because when we talk about it, Cameron, the one thing I always emphasize, I always like to call them parts and not episodes. And if anything, part 5, I think hammers home my definition. And again, we're getting into definitions. That's such scintillating internet conversation. But it's, you know, when you look at these parts in of themselves, they don't tell complete stories. even in the most serialized TV shows, the episodes themselves will still have like a beginning, a middle, and an end. These parts of Twin Peaks are collections of scenes. And that's not a criticism, but these really are bigger. These are but small pieces of a larger whole.
Well, remember though, Doppelganger, he needs to be in that prison right now.
Right.
Okay. That's where he wants to be. So that's probably why he didn't escape. If he wanted to escape, he could have.
Yeah, you would think so.
He had to. He has to be in there because he found out that Ray got picked up for transporting guns across the state line from Daria before he killed her in the motel. And then he opened up his computer and he downloaded the schematics for the prison. He has the layout. He has the blueprints for the prison.
Right.
He needs to talk to Ray and extract the info, presumably from Betty Briggs. That's why he had the machine gun in his car, because he needed to transport guns across state lines so he would get arrested. But he didn't count on the car crash. So he ended up getting where he needed to be anyway.
Well, I interpreted it as him dialing that number. He got that from whatever schematics he was looking at. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe he just, that device that he called that then later turned into a pellet or whatever the hell happened there at the end. If
Michael J. Anderson can evolve into a tree, maybe Philip Jeffries can evolve into a black box.
We're jumping all over the place here, guys.
Yeah, we are a little bit. I'm not sure. Yeah, actually, Jay, let's bring it back to Jay.
Yeah, Jay, you ask the questions and we'll answer.
I can't ground this thing, man. Well, first of all, I just want to say Doppelganger Cooper creeps me out big time, and I just think it's just another testament to how awesome Kyle MacLachlan is.
He's going to win an Emmy.
Just such a, and the you mentioned this, Cameron, when Sonny Jim, he looks at Sonny Jim and you see the one single tear go down his cheek. Oh man, it's heartbreaking.
But the thing before it creeps me out more when Sonny Jim blinks backwards.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I didn't notice that either. I need to go back and watch it again.
What the hell? Something's going on in Rancho Rosa.
Yeah, and definitely something with. Well, sorry, I'm jumping around too.
Go ahead. There's so much to talk about.
While we're in there, we can talk about when the car explodes. And we were talking about in the Twitter chat that it's obviously not the same car before and after the explosion. So is it just another thing to say Rancho Rosa's bizarre? What's going on there?
It works both ways. It works as a production logistic, and it also, if Rancho Rosa isn't what it's supposed to be, and there's so many clues that it's not, the blackberries, the fact that we're dealing with the housing crisis of 2006 apparently in that neighborhood, the fact that there's red balloons everywhere in this place, the fact that even on the walls there's pictures of red balloons. There's, Dougie works on level 7 for levels, for 7 insurance, and there's 7s everywhere. The crack mom with the kid versus Sonny Jim and Naomi Watts. None of the kids talk. The fact that the crack mom has a patriarchal cross on the outside of her house, and that ties into the fact that Dougie lives near Sycamore Street on Lancelot Court, down the street from Merlin's Market, when it's all tied into King Arthur in the final episode of season 2, where you talk about Glastonbury Grove. There's some weird shit going on.
This is where we got to go to Cameron, because I haven't picked up on half of that.
So are we totally convinced now that this is not present day? This actually is 10, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever.
Well, we finally got a good shot at that license plate, though.
Yes, we did.
And again, if for whatever meaning that gives us, because it absolutely does say 03.
But the thing is,
March.
There is.
I don't think so.
Well, some people say that's March. I don't know, but here's where the key is. We'll find out. Jade mailed the key to the Great Northern.
Right.
Okay. When they get the key, we will know if we're present day or whether they got the key 10 years before Hawk is investigating this.
Right.
That's when we'll know. Because obviously she's mailed in the key, then that means it's not a dream reality.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Jay, I think the reason we're so scattered is it kind of like I was saying, they aren't like traditional episodes as we think of them. There's not a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's not like a narrative. It's not like we can say like, oh, well, the opening sequence did this, and then the middle part of the story did that. Because it's a collection of scenes all tying back to the things that happen in the first 4 parts and things that are still yet to come. It's somewhat hard, to lock in on like a flow of analysis or
But I
thinking
also
about
think
the
that
episodes.
I also think that they did a really smart thing, which was they filmed a ton of Roadhouse performances. So whenever they decided to end the episode, they just stick one of those at the end.
Right.
It's kind of a nice way of just kind of closing it out. And also, if you want to make a fan cut later, you just know where to make the cut.
Right. And so, but actually, bringing up the Roadhouse is good because it actually can give us something I wanted to bring up. And that, there have been criticisms online. And I think, Jay, we might have talked about this a little bit last week, you and I. And Cameron, I know we've talked about this in various forms. But, some of the criticisms or some of the things that some are lamenting about the new episodes parts is, it doesn't feel like Twin Peaks. Like, where's the humor? Well, I kind of feel like part 5 answered that question in a big way, handled almost entirely by the Jacoby sequence, where we learn he's like an Alex Jones, internet personality who kind of rants and raves.
Chemtrails.
Yeah. Like that, but then it was funny because the episode had that, so sort of giving us some of that old quirky humor and giving the actor who plays Jacoby some really good funny material. I'm wondering if there'll be bloopers released on the Blu-ray for this, because I want to see the Michael Cera bit bloopers and I want to see the bloopers from that.
There's like at least 4 hours of uncut footage.
There likely is, yeah. But the other thing, and then because you mentioned the Roadhouse camera, and that's where I want to tie it back, is the kind of the ending sequence, or one of the last things we see in the episode is we go back to the Roadhouse. We think the episode's going to end, but we all checked our watches and there was still time left. We meet this character in the Roadhouse. He's sitting in a booth alone, and again, I always just love how David Lynch will frame certain shots where he's sitting in a booth alone smoking, and then there's a sign on the wall like above the booth, no smoking allowed, or no smoking.
Let me tell you something. He's sitting in a booth, and there's a character that they call out as Frank earlier, and I'm telling you, Frank Booth. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
because this character acted like Dennis Hopper.
Well, right, and that was the thing. So this character sits there, and he's got ties to one of the Twin Peaks sheriff's deputies, one of the guys who's being mean to Andy in one of the earlier parts.
Right.
But something develops where, because he's smoking, girls on the table next to him, one of them says, "Hey, can I get a light?" And he invites her over, and when she sits down, he grabs her and he assaults her in pretty vicious fashion. Like, he holds her down and asks her, if she wants to get fucked. And I felt like this episode was kind of a good blend of, you want some of the old Twin Peaks? Well, here's Dr. Jacoby hawking his gold shovels. Mm-hmm. You want Twin Peaks 2017? Here's a nameless, threatening presence, sexually assaulting women in the Roadhouse, for an extended sequence where we're just kind of, the camera just didn't move. It was just kind of right there.
Oh, it went on so long.
Yeah.
And it cut away, and there wasn't any payoff to it. I think, but see, I think Cooper being gone has put the town into a standstill. I really do, because when that girl's being sexually assaulted, her friends do nothing. The people in the booth next to them do nothing. The people at the bar do nothing. And all the stuff with Dougie and Naomi Watts. Look, Dougie needs to be taken to a hospital if he's acting like that. And they just shove him out the door. Go to work. Not even this is. I mean, he only finds his work because the statue is pointing in that way.
Right.
Well, and everyone helps him do everything that he does. Like, get into the elevator, get out of the elevator, take a seat right here.
Right.
Everything he does, he's directed, and that's just not realistic.
Hey, I want to thank the girl, though, for the girl that made a pass at him at the bathroom. I want to thank her for standing there at the door, because I worried that Sizemore was going to go in there and kick his ass for what he pulled in the meeting. You're a liar.
I'm actually wondering if, and again, I agree, Jay. I think it's a little over the top. I'm starting to I know this is Twin Peaks and there's Dream Logic and all this other stuff, but there is starting to become for me a suspension. Like, I'm losing that suspension of disbelief, because he's been acting like this for so long, and like you say, everyone has to help him do everything. You just look at the guy and you think this guy had a stroke. And you think his wife, who's been sleeping in the bed with him now for like 2 days, how does she not? But anyway,
but they keep calling him Mr. Dreamweaver and all this stuff. There's all these. They keep insinuating that's a dream. But
all I mean by that though is that if it's not a dream, is that I wonder if we're getting some bits of backstory about Dougie, because we already know that Dougie's a gambler who was in deep to some people. But I wonder if he's also like a drunkard. Like, and again, he disappeared for 3 days, and Naomi Watts was pissed at him, but it kind of seemed like she's pissed because he's done this before too.
And let's don't forget that Tom Sizemore says to him, back from Bendersville.
Right. Right. So I'm wondering if people are used to kind of helping Dougie around because he's been like in the office drunk out of his mind, barely.
Well, Naomi Watts did say you're in one of your episodes again.
Yeah, right. What is she talking about?
And the other thing is that if he's coming back from Bendersville and that we're still referencing Bend, Oregon, and the fact that Laura Palmer still once again said sometimes my arms bend back. All right. There's just that word is just repeated. And like, you know, like we were talking about in the original series that they say Cooper, and now in this one Cole's saying Albert, and I mean there's just so many things. There's like 3 Coopers, there's 2 Trumans, there's, you know, it's like there's doppelgangers and multitude of names being thrown at you. There's 3 Mikes and Bobs going on. It's just it's insane to keep track of everybody.
But before we
look at Jay.
I'm losing my thoughts. I keep getting these thoughts, and they're going right out. Sorry, go ahead.
all I was going to say, and it's slightly off Twin Peaks, but I saw the posting. I believe it was on Twin Peaks Worldwide, or maybe Cameron, it was posted to Obnoxious Anonymous. Debbie posted a link to a website called Twin Finder, and she posted it kind of joking, like, "Oh, hey, you know, find your doppelganger." There's apparently some foreign site, it's like a social media type site, where you can upload your picture, and they're using like some AI, you know, face scanning process to find other people in the world that look just like you. And the pictures of these people, you know, it's you know, your non-twin twins. Because, you know, you always hear that old, you know, people always talk about it all the time where, you know, hey, I met somebody. It's like, he looked just like you. And it's like, well, I don't have a brother. But, you know, everybody's got a twin in the world somewhere. Like, there's that statement. I just think it's interesting. There's like a website out there to find those people.
It's a website for everything these days.
Yeah. But anyway, Jay, I'm sorry.
Scary.
Did anything come back into focus?
But
yeah,
you know,
I like to use Christian Mingle. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, anyone who complains about the humor in this new Twin Peaks, it's like, you know, we're not really dealing with humorous times anymore. I mean, this is a life or death struggle we got going on here. We got a man's soul on the line here. You know, not quite as funny as it should be. Yeah. Or needs to be, you know?
I guess I don't know. For me though, and again, I'm in till the end. I don't say this as I want to see the whole, because these are but smaller parts of the whole. I really don't feel like I'm able to criticize. However, you know, it just feels like this has to be leading somewhere. But the longer we've got just our hero, the guy we've been waiting 25 years to see how he turned out, like stumbling around, you know, peeing on himself and, you know, suckling on coffee cups. Like there's a certain point where it's like, it's kind of I'm losing patience, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, you need to relax, Eric, because he's out of the lodge. So that's the good news. The bad news is that he's going to have to probably go through the lodge again to get out.
Right. Well, exactly. That's the thing. Because if this whole time travel thing is real, exactly, the only way he's going to get caught up, conceivably, is he has to go back there.
And I think that's where the gray lodge or gray stuff with the giant is going to come back in. I think that's going to be like the middle, or maybe he'll be stuck there at the end again. Who knows?
Oh God. Yeah.
All right, Jay, what's your next question? He's shaking his head.
Okay. I saw this start at the beginning here. We're using a BlackBerry from obviously the early 2000s, where we're talking about mid 2000s, whatever, to talk to this black box, which we have no idea what's going on, but it's obviously really freaky.
And did you see the numbers on her BlackBerry? They added up to 315.
Ah.
So, and that's obviously a big number that comes up.
My brain can't comprehend this shit. This is too much.
Yeah.
Orc, let me just break it down for you, Orc. This show is I'm more and more convinced that this show was designed for people who watched the original show at some point, either when it was originally on or going back to when Eric saw it. And you've had to have lived with this show for at least, I'm going to say, 5 to 10 years before you watch this new one to fully grasp. Because I think the time difference plays a factor of like how you are responding to this. If you binge watch it on Netflix on Friday and then watch the new episode, I don't think it has that feeling than waiting since 1991 to see it.
Yeah.
That's how just the way Lynch directs. Like, I'll watch one of his movies and I'll be like, okay, this is pretty awesome. And then I'm just like, but what the fuck is going on?
And
I have no idea what's happening.
And David Lynch is someone who is never, ever mentioned in the Pantheon list of horror directors. And yet he's, I think, one of the scariest filmmakers ever.
No,
made.
I've only seen 3 of his films, but I mean, because I'm a noob. But
don't like compare a lot to Eraserhead or anything. That one's kind of out
yeah,
there.
I've only seen Blue Velvet, Eraserhead, and Mulholland Drive. So.
Oh yeah.
But like the homeless person in Mulholland Drive, I mean, it's just like that's scarier than any of the jump scares in half those Blumhouse movies.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pure nightmare fuel.
One that I was trying to get because you like it so much. I know I'm going back into movies, but it's still David Lynch, so it counts. Don't kill me here. Is Wild at Heart, but the DVD goes for I think a fair amount, and there's no Blu-ray, so it's pretty shitty.
There is a Blu-ray. It was one of those what's those guys that charge a fortune. They like
Twilight Time.
It was a Twilight Time. Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't a Blu-ray, is what you're saying.
It's a VHS transfer.
Yeah. The DVD's not available. I could have sworn it was like they Kino dropped a DVD of it.
Maybe. Well, yeah, I think there's still a DVD out, but I think maybe I just checked on one of those days where Amazon jacked up the price and it was like $40, and I'm like, okay, I'm good for now. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is one of the greatest movies ever made. If you ever see it, Ork, you would love it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
is like Nicolas Cage better, or is he better in this one?
No, Nicolas Cage. This is the defining performance of Nicolas Cage.
Laura Dern too.
Oh, I thought it was that witch movie that came out in like 2010.
Oh yeah, The Last Witch Hunter.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was that George Romero movie, Season of the Witch. That the remake.
Well, I mean, it can't be better than Face Off or Gone in 60 Seconds.
It cannot be.
Bro, what do you like doing more? Having sex or stealing cars?
This is back at a time when Nicolas Cage still wanted to like have fun and experiment in his roles, and he wasn't doing stuff just to like pay for a house.
Dude, he's such a boss. I didn't even know that about him. Cole's like, dude, you know why he's in every movie and he looks like he's dying basically halfway, like through every scene? And he's like, he's trying to buy islands and shit, and he's a movie actor. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, Ork, you could make a movie on Super 8, like some digital thing, and just if you could come up with, $10 million, Nicolas Cage will show up at your house tomorrow. So
holy shit.
Nicolas Cage has gotten to where he makes big movies sometimes, but there's like a new movie at Walmart every time I go there.
Or sometimes you see stuff, you're just scrolling through Netflix, you'll see some movie. It's like, wait a second, is that Nicolas Cage?
I gotta comment real quick on what Bruce is saying, because it seems like all the big 90s stars, minus Stallone and Schwarzenegger, like Gibson, Cage, who's the other one? Travolta, they all have these a lot of straight to DVD or streaming movies now. From what I've noticed.
I'll honestly tell you what happened with Nicolas Cage. He was a fantastic actor. Came up as Francis Coppola, Nicolas Coppola. Was in a ton of Coppola's movies. Did a bunch of great acting performances, and then right after he won Leaving Las Vegas for Best Actor, he decided, okay, now it's time to have some fun. And he did The Rock and Con Air and Face Off, and he got used to that kind of paycheck. And so he started buying a lot of stuff, and now he can't afford it anymore, and so he's stuck in direct-to-DVD hell. And unfortunately, when you're in that kind of predicament, you'll just take whatever they give you. I mean, there's a few actors. I'm sure Steven Seagal's another one who will just take anything you give him.
No, here's a question. He makes 10 straight-to-DVD videos a year, different movies, and I'm glad that Rambo Rat's still alive. But how much do you think he makes a year? From all those DVD movies, do they just fork out money for him just so he can eat cheeseburgers and
it's like Jason Statham and all those Yuli Bowl movies. I mean, they would just pay him a huge fee up front, and then
I was surprised to see the dude in Freddy vs. Jason. He's in all those Rampage movies. I saw House of the Dead. That's the only film I've seen from him. So.
But
which dude?
Oh, Rampage.
Yuli Bowl.
Oh.
But I love the Rampage movies. I'm not gonna lie.
But what he'll do is he'll have the scripts for In the Name of the King 2, 3, and 4, and when Jason Statham's there, in 4 weeks he'll bang out his scenes for the next 3 films, and so he doesn't have to come back, but he gets paid for all 3 films.
Jeez.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a nice deal.
Anyway,
Okay.
maybe circling back to Twin Peaks.
Sure.
let's
Sorry.
bring to a. Why don't we get final thoughts on Twin Peaks Part 5?
Oh, geez, we're there already? Oh, man.
Jay, you can
I
come on my show and ask questions if we're ever.
What is the black box? What is it? Why is it in Argentina? Why does it turn
Okay.
into a piece of gum at the end?
Okay, so let me.
Gold shovels.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about all that stuff, but I'll tell you why it's in Argentina, right? Because I made this point the other day, and it's really funny. When it said Buenos Aires, Argentina, the hardcore Twin Peaks fans perked up because that's a reference that you won't get from the show, won't get from Fire Walk With Me. It's only by reading the Fire Walk With Me screenplay that you get it.
Wait, no, it comes up in the missing pieces.
It comes up in the missing pieces,
Okay.
but what I'm saying though is that but before the missing pieces, you only got that because you read the script
Right.
for Fire Walk With Me.
So,
Because all that David Bowie stuff was supposed to be in Argentina.
Right.
So,
Right.
and
So
that's why I thought we were going to get a Bowie cameo. I was like, oh my God, he's going
I
to show
actually,
up.
when at the end, when they started showing more of like that location, I was thinking that I was like, oh my God, did he actually film a cameo? Are we going to get Bowie?
I'm not gonna be surprised if he shows up for at least a split second.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Even if they use like old footage, I mean, they recreated Frank Silva, they can recreate
Sure.
David Bowie.
Oh God,
And it's amazing how many people that are associated with this show have passed away, even just recently.
Yeah.
well, so many of them were
Crazy.
old. I mean, when you think about, I mean, just I can think of just two, like the mayor was already like, I looked like he was about to die any minute the first time around.
But I mean, Doc Hayward is in this show.
Yeah.
And he shot it right before he died. And every episode, if you look, every episode is dedicated to someone in that episode that died.
Yeah.
So it's pretty outrageous. I love the show so far. Like I keep saying, it's everything I wanted to see, but it is not giving it to me in a format I ever expected to see. But they're still like delivering. Cooper's out of the lodge. He's drinking coffee. He's doing his thing. We're seeing all the locals. But I never thought I'd see Dr. Jacoby like this. But they're giving it to us, and it's like fantastic because I never would have expected them to deliver him like that.
Right.
But when you see it, it makes sense. So,
and true, actually, and we didn't point out either that not only do we get Dr. Jacoby in that scene, that's pretty great, but we see that Jerry Horn is one of his loyal viewers sitting out in the middle of the forest, token up, enjoying the program, and so is Nadine.
Yeah.
In a wordless cameo so far, but it just fascinating that
my TV calibration was horrible that first night. So I actually thought it was just some homeless dude sitting by the river watching it. I thought about that homeless guy in Halloween 5. I was like, I thought that guy was, because I'm not used to seeing Jerry Horn. Get up there, cat. Jesus. I'm not used to seeing Jerry Horn with a beard as, token it up, watching an iPad by the river. So I was like, who the hell is that? So then someone else wrote me and they said, it's Jerry Horn. I was like, all right.
It is true. That scene was very dark. Originally I wasn't sure who it was. And then I think there was one particular shot where they kind of, zoomed in closer to his face and like the glow of his screen kind of was like, oh gosh, it's Jerry. And then when he started smoking too, that was kind of how I made the connection.
But one more thing, I just want to say Cooper Dougie is definitely getting help because obviously that green light comes across Tom Sizemore's face for him to know he's lying. When he was at the casino, the red room sorting hat from Harry Potter was like following every machine,
Is that what the light meant? It meant that he was lying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it made sense too. I mean, Sizemore's a liar anyway.
Sure.
And
I believe that he's a liar. Yeah.
And the fact is, listen, you're back in Twin Peaks territory when we're sitting around and we're talking about insurance claims over, over a burning, right? It was something like that, right? I'm like, oh, it feels like the sawmill. Even though we're not dealing with the sawmill, we're dealing with the sawmill. But I wonder if Dougie's homework that he got from his boss with all those piles of files, I wonder if one of them doesn't have to do with Sheriff Truman, considering the insurance agent came to see Lucy in the first scene in the first episode. Right now, either that is going to come into play there, or that businessman that came to see Lucy is the real Dougie Jones because he fits the body type of the bed of what they found in the bed.
Huh.
Because I don't really. Are they really going to tell us that's Major Briggs' decapitated body in the bed? I don't know. But then again, we did see his disembodied head floating in space, so that makes sense.
Well, that makes me wonder then if we're seeing more than 2 timelines, because I'm not certain if North Dakota is necessarily happening at the same time as the main story with the doppelganger by the prison.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying, and we won't know. And next week's episode it ends episode 6, so that is the end of the first act.
Right, which is that's been my theory, is that if we're treating this like a movie, something relatively big. Again, there's been big events in all these parts, but something relatively big should happen this weekend. Because
and it will because episode 7 is called "That's a Body, All Right,"
and episode 6 is called "Don't Die."
Yeah, something big's about to happen.
Yeah. So
we got to start getting a little bit of answers, I think, at some point, man.
But
I think
I've had some people write me though.
Part 5 actually did deliver on some of that, though. If you think about it, I mean, again, we saw what Jacoby was doing with the shovels. We finally saw who Shelley was referring to in terms of her daughter's with the wrong guy, and we finally met her daughter. I think again we're getting answers, but it's it's coming in drips and drabs.
And I got a comforting answer too, because if Deputy Chad is dealing with drugs, right, and he's getting paid off by that Richard Horn guy in the Roadhouse, then that probably means that Bobby is on the straight and narrow. Because I was scared that Bobby was still like dabbling and that kind of stuff. But if he's not, that means that Bobby's going to have to kill himself another deputy.
I think that Dana Ashbrook in an interview, I think he accidentally sort of spoiled that. Because when he first appeared, he had an interview, because I guess he was allowed to interview at that point since he'd appeared. And, someone asked what he thought about that. And he's like, well, it kind of made me think about that scene from the original series when Major Briggs, when my dad basically tells me he has this vision of me and that I'm going to be okay and all this other stuff. So Bobby, he turned his life around. He's on the straight and narrow, which...
Thanks, Dana.
If he's saying that, and again, he could just be saying that, but if he says that in an interview, I wonder if he's betraying more than he means to with that.
Well, there's something going on, because he said to Truman, I've been scouting all the trails, and Truman said all known trails, and he went, yeah. So I think that Bobby maybe is relying on his old drug past to know that, like, hey, there's more trails than the law knows about.
Right.
Because I used to run drugs myself.
Right.
Right. So hopefully, because I got scared, because when Truman started asking about the drugs, that's when he ran to the bathroom. And I was like,
that's true.
And I was like, oh boy, come on, Bobby, get your act together. I mean,
it could still be true, but
yeah, there's the other theory going around that maybe that kid who is married to Becky, which, by the way, I mean, we don't know this for a fact, but if we go by what we know, what we've heard is that Becky and her husband live at the Fat Trout trailer park. And it's possible that Candy Clark's dad is Harry Dean Stanton.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That would be interesting.
I don't want him driving around that damn death trap all day.
Yeah. Either that or because some people were thinking that Shelley Johnson was Harry Dean Stanton's daughter.
Yeah.
Which made sense too, because she, maybe a girl like that who grew up in a trailer park would marry Leo Johnson out of high school. So
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I'm really happy with the show. I know some people are nervous that we're going to get Dougie till episode 18, and then Lynch is just going to troll us.
I would be fine with that. I really would.
I'm not sure I would.
I mean,
Cooper
in the body of Dougie.
Eric would be jumping ship.
Well, again, I'm going to watch the whole thing, but listen, I understand they like to play with expectations and do all this other stuff, but that would be insane.
Well, you know what?
You take this character that, like, the light of the show, the one that everybody missed in the movie they made, and you sort of bring him back, but he's like a blubbering blob for. But
we're also getting doppelganger Kyle, and that makes up for it too.
Maybe he's going to eventually get more of his. come back to his old
when
self.
he comes back, it's going to be like by the power of Grayskull. It's going to be the most awesome. It's going to be the most awesome moment ever.
Well, and actually, in this episode, actually teased more of that along too, because he's hearing things that are starting. It seems like it's starting to start the engine of his mind. Like someone said, agent, and
Right.
that seemed to like strike a chord with him. Someone said
Sees
case
the lawman
files, and
the lawman statue and all that stuff.
yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. It's like my wife said to me the other day, when the episode was over, she said, something tells me this is going to pay off in a big way, because it's just
the statue or just the thing?
Just going through all the Dougie stuff. I mean, It's just because listen, we already know that that's not all we're going to see, because we've seen plenty of shots of Cooper in a suit driving a car. Right.
That's true.
In a suit, walking with the one-armed man. We also have seen the TMZ footage of Kyle in the suit with Cheryl Lee at the Laura Palmer house.
The problem is that could be like from friggin' episode 18 at the end. I
Spoiler.
mean, we just spoiled ourselves on the last episode.
No, because Lynch and Frost never would have shot the finale moment in front of an entire neighborhood.
Well, listen, I'm not saying that's the finale moment, but I'm saying like that could be like part of the finale. And if he wanted to do that at like Laura Palmer's house, they had to do it when they were at the location. And I mean,
yeah, but they could have
they
could have blocked the streets off, but they didn't. They let the people stand on the other side and take pictures the whole time. So,
I mean, don't people live there? Can they block off a neighborhood street?
They can block off people walking in from the neighborhood.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's true. Okay.
So,
yeah,
I mean. Anyway, I don't know. I just, I think that listen, I never would have thought in this comeback that episode 3, we were going to be in outer space, but we were,
having said that from Cameron, this is why I like having Jay around. Cause Jay, I think represents, it almost sounds like insulting,
America.
and I don't mean it to be.
I'm
I mean
trying,
it to be legitimate.
man.
It's like,
I really am.
you're the common man. You're like the guy who, he wants
trying.
to.
Jay, are you enjoying the show, or are you just like, are you ready to jump?
No. I'm not ready to jump at all. I'm really enjoying the show, actually. Much more than season 2. I can say that much.
Well, can I ask you what do you like about it so far?
Well, I like, of course, I like all the Kyle MacLachlan. It's nice seeing him playing like 6 different roles.
It's nice. It's nice to see him as a man again in a TV show. Yeah,
I talked to Eric about some of the problems I have with the show, which I mean, it's kind of small compared to the stuff I like, but we're outside of Twin Peaks. We're seeing all this other world we've never seen before, which is interesting.
I think they did it for 2 reasons. I think that one, it was the story they wanted to tell, but 2, I think they knew that if they set up shop in Snoqualmie, North Bend for the entire show would have been leaked on the internet by everybody.
That's a good point. Yeah,
but by bouncing around all over the globe, you keep that from happening.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to keep that, like these days, especially where everyone has a phone in their pocket.
But they did it.
Camera.
I mean, up until the show premiered, I still didn't even know what was gonna be about.
Really?
When that episode first started, were you like, okay, they're gonna find another box? I mean, they didn't even tip their hand at all.
Oh,
the show was
yeah.
So
they, all the interviews I've heard with some of the people that are involved, even big people, they don't really know what's going on yet either. So
there's a reason for that too. They only got their lines. They never got the. Right. They didn't get the script.
It's like so and so. Oh yeah, I had a few pages, and I don't I have no idea what's going on.
But your tweet made me laugh so hard, where you said, "I'll never in my life forget a scene of Kyle MacLachlan telling Jennifer Jason Leigh she's hot and wet."
That was awful.
I actually, until you brought her up, I completely forgot about that character. I wonder, is that her only scene? Is that all we're going to see from her?
Well, you never know. Or she could be the getaway driver for him at one point, because he does say, "I'm going to need you in a couple days."
That's true.
So, he could bust out of Shawshank, and I want to see just Jennifer Jason Leigh just hightailing down the road. Last time I saw her hightailing down the road was The Hitcher in '86. So let's see it.
She's awesome too. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, she was on screen for what, 60 seconds, maybe?
Yeah.
Probably not even that, but
it was memorable.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But but you know what though? Are you guys surprised? I know I don't want to derail the show here for a second, but I kind of just keep myself, in a bubble. But I have seen over and over again the last couple of days tons and tons and tons of David Lynch is now a misogynist articles being written.
Yeah, I
out.
keep seeing.
I'm
Well,
not
what's
gonna
funny is
entertain
when the first 4 came out, I saw one article, which was I think the most smartly written article I've seen, which is basically saying, kind of just looking at it, you would think that's what it is, but really David Lynch is a feminist, and here's why, and this is not an endorsement of these things, and But you're right. After this past episode, I've seen at least 5 of those articles pop up, and
the big website What the Flick, which comes off of the Young Turks YouTube, right? They reviewed the show, and the 8 minutes of the 15 minutes of them tackling episodes 3, 4, and 5, by the way, in 15 minutes. The first 8 minutes was David Lynch has a problem with women, and here's why.
What's an example of that? I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Just the fact that he's killing a girl in the bed with he's killing naked women. He's got the girl in her bra and panties getting shot through the head and all this stuff. Never mind, and the fact that Jack is the guy that the doppelganger does this too. He's killed off screen, but the women are killed on screen. That kind of stuff. But then again, keep in mind Sam got his face eaten off too with that girl Tracy.
He's like an awful demonic thing. I mean,
come on. Sam was balls deep, and he got that shit ruined. I mean,
well, the thing. Listen, I agree with so many people that say representing misogyny does not mean that you are a misogynist.
Absolutely, it does exist. I mean,
Cameron, don't be a queer.
Well, I saw someone else say, okay, dear world, fix the world's problems. Then David Lynch doesn't have to portray them.
Right. Yeah, it's like I don't understand some of the stories that they want. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is a position out there, and I think I agree with it to some extent if it's badly done. But there is a perspective out there, and it largely came to light because of Game of Thrones, that stuff like rape is being used as a narrative device, and it's lazy. That just if you need to have a bad thing happen to one of your characters, and she's a woman, you get her raped. Again,
I could see
this all happened when Sansa got raped by Ramsay Bolton.
Mm.
And again, to say nothing of the fact that this actually happens in the book, not exactly that way, but frankly, what he does in the book, I think, is worse. But it's all being used to kind of champion this perspective that, this is all normalizing it, and it's just it's lazy.
Listen, I get nervous. Forget about the misogyny. I'm more nervous about checking Twitter about Twin Peaks after every time Andy or Lucy calls Hawk an Indian.
I thought of that.
I keep worrying that there's going to be this David Lynch is, a white man, because I mean, your area won't even let white people sell burritos, Eric.
No, listen, Portland.
That's in Oregon.
I'm in Washington.
That's very close. 3 hours south of you.
It is close, and I imagine some of the same people pollinate, but we're not that bad. Seattle.
It's all Kurt Cobain area.
First of all, let me just say, in Snoqualmie, Washington, if you drive down, I think it's Railroad Avenue, which basically runs straight up to where the Great Northern is, the Salish Lodge, and then all the way over to North Bend, there is an auto parts place. When you're driving towards North Bend, I had this huge Trump sign on the sign of the building. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, you go, man. I'm surprised your building hasn't been lit on fire yet. Holy cow.
And
there was actually more of that out there than I expected for Washington State. I think it's just the cities. I think,
Seattle you are surrounded by a bunch of Russians. You got a huge Russian population up there.
That's true.
So, and it's not a negative thing. I'm just pointing it out.
Specifically, even in Snoqualmie too. I remember because we were part of a Snoqualmie Facebook page, and that was an observation I made to my wife that holy cow, did Mars explode? Sorry, it just seemed to brighten outside really quickly. It was something we observed as well. And again, they're perfectly fine people, no judgments on that. But it was something we noticed.
Well, I had an ex-girlfriend that lived up there, and when I go up to visit, every single one of her neighbors was Russian. And I was like, wow, it's really interesting because you think of you guys are watching Fargo, all that Nordic stuff and over there.
Yeah,
and it's just interesting that the Russians kind of settled in Washington State. There's a huge
in Soviet Washington, Ben kill you.
You mean of Russian descent, of Russian descent Americans, or immigrants from Russia?
I think I mean, the ones that I actually met, I think were from, I mean, if they weren't from Russia, they were from kind of like, Eastern Europe.
Why
kind
is
of
that?
thing.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Why there would be
That's
such
just-
I
a
have no
large
idea either.
But I think it's just an
Okay.
interesting like aspect of that. You would never think that like a huge amount of Russian immigrants would be in Washington State, but they are.
All right, Washington State related. Have you been to Mount St. Helens?
That's in like a completely different part of the state. Like the mountain that's near me is Mount Rainier.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
driving south on I-5, which would take me into Seattle, on a very, very clear day, pretty much right from where I am, which is about 30 minutes north of the city, you can see that mountain. It's gorgeous. And even if you look out to the east, you can see the Cascade Range, which is kind of the mountain range that leads down into the Snoqualmie region. So, sorry, I'm talking about the beauty of Washington State now. But
yeah, that's awesome, and I'd love to go.
but yeah, no, it's
Yeah, I
one
love
of the things
Dante's
about this
Peak.
area that I think
Great
just
movie.
gives it such great character.
And it doesn't rain there all the time, right? I mean,
It really doesn't. That's what it's again. I think the people around here don't like that secret to get out. It does rain a lot, but what you don't understand
It
is
sucks. Don't come.
yeah. Well, again, we're getting definitely far afield here, but because of the Googles and the Microsofts and the Amazons, the job market up here is just insane. Amazon is adding like 20,000 new people. There's just a huge Starbucks is doing stuff. There's just a huge influx of people coming up to this area, and so the housing market's nuts. And I think just the people around here over like the past 15 years, I think, is when this really, really started to explode. Kind of right alongside the internet boom.
Yeah.
And I think the people up here are just kind of like, God, like stop, don't come here.
I know a few people in that area, and right across the bridge from Seattle, there's a city called Bellevue, and Bezos, Gates, all those guys live right in that city.
Yep.
I wouldn't work, for a lot of those companies, but if I lived up in Washington, I would definitely be running a Twilight tour group.
Well, that's over on the east. That's on the west. Like it would take some doing to go and find. Was it Forks? Is that the name of that stupid place?
When are we going to do our Twilight show, Eric? Come on.
First of all, let me just say, I've seen Twilight, but the only way I've seen Twilight is watching Riff Tracks. That is the only way I agreed to do it, and it was still rough. They help, and it is funny, but those movies, I just can't understand how they made 5 of those things.
Well, there's 4 books.
I get that, but I'm just saying what I mean is I can't believe they did well enough that they just kept making them.
So Jay, you like Blade? Yeah, me too. Classic. Good movie.
Yeah. Twilight sucks, man. Seriously. Like from on just like the film aspect, it's a piece of trash.
Well, I think when we start getting into the Twilight content, now is where we should segue into the truly awesome content, talk about Justified. I want to make sure we give it some justice too.
Oh, definitely. I'm just having fun with you guys screwing around, So
no, I got
but I have to go to dinner now. You guys do Justified because I have really only seen the pilot of Justified. I haven't even watched the whole show. So there's something about Timothy Oliphant. It just rubs me the wrong way.
What?
Yeah.
Especially after that pilot?
Yeah.
Because to rub everybody the right way.
Because I looked at that like, oh, you're doing this because Deadwood went away, my friend. I get it. So.
Hey, he was the villain in Live Free or Die Hard, Cameron. You think about that.
He was the villain in Scream 2.
It's funny. So knowing he was the villain in Scream 2, I wasn't sure when I heard he was cast for this. I was not sure how to take it because I always thought that Mickey, that was his name in Scream 2, was just really hammy and really over the top and not scary. Whereas Billy and Stu were scary in a very like creepy, suburban way. He was just a big goof.
The African American girl in Scream 2, her name's Hallie in the movie, but in the script, her name was Mallory, and she was the other killer, and they were going to be Mickey and Mallory.
Oh, that would have been great.
You remember this, Cameron?
Yeah, I heard that.
When you're eating your steak at dinner tonight, he was our savior in the remake of The Crazies. All right, you remember that.
Yes, he was.
Kevin Smith calls him Timothy Olifantastic. I guess they did a movie together called Catch and Release, and I guess Tim Oliphant just gave Kevin Smith shit the whole time. Like, you're going to say a line like that? Okay, go ahead. You think you're the pro actor? Go ahead. Yeah, just gave him shit
Oh,
the whole time. He does a whole ramble about it. I'm sure you can find on YouTube. Kevin Smith's Timothy Olyphantastic.
I always
I'm going
look
to
for
do a
movies.
rant about Kevin Smith. How about that?
I always look for movie-related stuff, but like it's kind of going into that weird part of YouTube. I just always go to Christian Bale. I always get directed there, and he's like, "I'll trash your fucking lights, you fucking amateur."
Oh, good for you.
Good for you.
I love that whole thing. That's way better than the movie.
The way they put it on Family Guy, where they just aired the whole thing with just like making it seem like he did it to Peter instead, but they just aired the whole. I mean, it literally was like 7 minutes of that episode was just the Christian Bale tape.
That's great.
I thought that was pretty great.
That's
Did any of you guys play the new Duke Nukem game that came out a few years ago?
No,
Or
Like
did you hear
I
about
didn't
that?
realize there was one.
Well,
2010.
yeah, what is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, more than a few years ago then.
Yeah.
But it has that entire scene in there from the Trash Your Light stuff. Like it's like you can go find another character in the game, and he's doing that. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
It's fucking distracted.
All right,
Man.
you guys have a wonderful time discussing Justified, and I'll check you guys later.
Thanks,
Take
Cameron.
care.
Thanks for having me on, Eric. Appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
All right, bye.
So yeah, Jay, Jay and I have talked about Justified kind of just offline. I think it came up just sort of offhandedly in an episode of The Sausage Factory. And if I'm not mistaken, Jay, I think you sought me out, similar to how you sought me out about this show too.
Yeah.
I think we owe everything to you. But just, I think I'd mentioned it, and since the Sausage Factory guys, for the most part, are movie guys, which isn't to say that we aren't necessarily. Like I think that TV is where, especially now, is kind of where I live, where I think all the good stuff's being made. And Justified, which I think premiered on FX in 2010, if I remember correctly, was a show based around a character created by Elmore Leonard in a book, and specifically it was a character, like the story of Justified was based off of a short story of this character after his first 2 appearances. So the first episode is called Fire in the Hole. That's the pilot.
Mhm.
And that episode is actually a pretty faithful adaptation of the short story that he wrote. It didn't include some of the backstory from the other Elmore Leonard novels. I think it's Ride the Rap and I can't think of the other one. I can do some internet sleuthing here while we're talking, but really, the whole premise of the series is about this this U.S. Marshal who he's kind of like a modern day cowboy. He shoots a lot of people, and it gets him in trouble. He gets in trouble for shooting someone in a very public place, and although it wasn't outright, murder by a cop, it was close enough to the line that his boss is taking some heat, and he basically says, I can't have you here in Miami, which is where he was. So he sends him back to the U.S. Marshal District in Kentucky, where he basically covers the territory of his hometown, Harlan County, Kentucky. And he doesn't want to be there, and he gets wrapped up in a case pursuing his a guy he used to dig coal with, Boyd Crowder, who turns out to be the villain of that episode. And I hesitate to call him the villain of the series, but definitely a darker character. And what I find fascinating is that in 2 FX series, and I don't know whether you knew this, Jay, because we've talked about the Shield a little bit too. In Justified, Boyd Crowder was intended to die at the end of the pilot, because he died in the short story. He's dead. I mean, it's not like, I don't know that they show him being wheeled out to the the morgue or anything, but I mean the intent is that Raylan shoots him dead. In the series, though, in the pilot, they liked so much about what Walton Goggins was doing that they kind of said to themselves, like, I know he's supposed to kill him, but can he not? So, Boyd survives the pilot. They add a little tag at the end where he kind of rolls out, and then Raylan visits him briefly. That's actually in the second episode. He's still alive at the end of the pilot, and then in the beginning of the second episode, Raylan visits him in jail, in the medical ward. But on the Shield, originally the character of Vic Mackey was sort of the main character. I hesitate to call him, the hero character, because he's certainly not. But
Yeah.
he was supposed to be sort of front and center. And while he did have this group of guys he worked with, the strike team, the team of bad cops, it was really supposed to be Vic Mackey, and these other guys are supposed to be sort of peripheral characters. But similar to, again, and this happened before Justified, the Shield's before Justified, Walton Goggins and oh gosh, it kills me. I can't remember the actor who plays Kenny Johnson. Kenny Johnson plays Curtis Lemansky. Walton Goggins played Shane Vendrell. What those guys did with their characters was just so good that they eventually became series regulars, and kind of the whole strike team got fleshed out. And I shuddered. Like, I don't know what the Shield would have been about if those guys hadn't come to prominence, because really so much of the show is about that team and about those characters and about those people. But anyway, I only mentioned it, Jay, just I don't know whether you knew that, but definitely in the case of Justified, it was a similar thing. He was Walton Goggins was kind of doing a favor for FX. They wanted him to do this character, and he's actually sort of the actor is somewhat sensitive about playing Southern characters. He said in interviews before that, he's often frustrated with how Hollywood portrays Southern people. It's usually some guy can show up and do a Southern accent, and there, and he doesn't like that. Again, he played a lot of, Shane Vendrell was a guy who was supposed to be from Georgia. In fact, I believe that Walton Goggins is from Georgia, so I think that's kind of why they gave him that backstory.
I believe he's from Alabama.
Was he from? Is he him? Like, you mean the actor, or was Shane?
The actor. Oh, you mean Shane's from
Shane?
Georgia?
Shane, the character, is supposed to be from Georgia.
Oh, okay.
I thought they did that because Walton Goggins is from Georgia, but maybe he is from Alabama. The point is, he actually is from the South.
Right.
He's from he has the credit. He can. He knows the deal.
Sure.
By the way, I've seen Billy Bob Thornton give a similar interview. I don't know whether you've ever watched the Norm Macdonald podcast. It's on YouTube, and if you haven't, it's friggin' hilarious. And all it is, it's just him telling jokes, and he brings people on for interviews, random people. But Billy Bob Thornton's one of them. And on there, Billy Bob Thornton basically says kind of the same thing, that, in Hollywood, if you want to play like some kind of Shakespearean role, or, like a British character, you need to have, a certain acting education and something to bring to it. Whereas they'll just make anybody a Southern character. It's like, can you talk like this? Then you can be Southern, But anyway, Walton Goggins was essentially just doing a favor for FX. The character of Boyd, it seemed just kind of like another Southern character on paper. He's like, I don't know if I want to do this. I just did Shane. I don't really like these roles. They're kind of, paper thin. But he really dug into it, and he actually really liked the character. And again, FX liked what he did so much that they were like, we would really like you to appear more throughout the season and make this more of a permanent thing. And so that's 2 shows on FX where he did that.
Yeah, it really makes you, oh, okay. I mean, you could definitely see the Shield connection, relatively quickly.
Right. And I just, it's similar to how I was saying, like, I just don't know if I can imagine what the Shield would have been about without the strike team, that whole core group of guys. Similarly, I just don't know how Justified would have turned out without Boyd being that sort of counterbalance to Raylan. I mean, the 2 guys were, over the course of the show, this becomes more apparent, but it really is they're a mirror to one another. And in many ways, and I think this is why Raylan sort of hates Boyd in some respect. He doesn't want to admit it. His life was probably a hair's breadth away from being exactly like Boyd's.
Absolutely.
He went a different path, and Boyd went another. But they came from the same place. They dug coal together. The people in that part of the country, again, in the course of the show, I don't want to make some broad generalization, but it's like they live a certain kind of life. They don't often leave, and if they do, it's they don't come back. And it's something I think is interesting, that I don't know how Justified would have been without Boyd Crowder as kind of the number 2 man behind.
Oh, I don't think it would have been able to get past season 1 if it didn't go like that.
Right.
Because that is the heart of the show, is their constant. They're almost friends at some point, but they're bitter enemies. They're in a shootout together. The next scene, they're shooting at each other. It's just kind of.
And actually, that's something I want to credit the show with, is that Boyd was very much a villain in his first episode, and then over the end of the first season, like to this day, and I've actually watched the show a couple of times in its entirety again. To this day, I'm still not really sure. The Boyd character starts to, seems to turn his life around. He's got like a prayer group out in the woods, but he can't quite extricate himself from his criminal element father and family, and to the point where he actually starts doing criminal things to sabotage him. But what I mean is like, I wasn't sure, was Boyd just running a game, or did he legitimately undergo some kind of change?
That's a good question.
Because because just the motivating event actually is the pilot. Raylan shooting Boyd. Essentially, Boyd should have died, which again is funny because in fact he was going to. But the character took it as, I was supposed to die, but I didn't. This means something, and he took on this kind of religious conversion. Raylan initially thought that, like, oh god, so this is just Boyd's new game. This is how he's going to try and get out of jail. This is how he's, trying to dupe people now. But I think even the character of Raylan, for a time, wasn't sure what Boyd was up to. And it really, like, even though Boyd eventually, again, it's sort of a spoiler, but kind of not. Boyd eventually returns to criminal activities. He's never the same character that he was in the pilot. He really is a transformed person. He's still doing bad things, but I mean, in Boyd Crowder's mind, he's the hero of the story. Yeah. Which, in any good villain, if you write them well, that's what they should be. The guy twirling his mustache, that's not life. I mean, I think Boyd Crowder, there's probably an argument you could even be made, Justified could have been tweaked slightly, where Boyd was the hero character. I mean, very much you could do sort of a Sopranos type thing with that guy. But sorry, AJ, I've been filibustering. What are your thoughts?
No. It's really interesting what you bring up there, because I think Boyd is the villain for most of the series, but he's constantly shown as to not be the worst that there is. But there's always times when he redeems his character. He's the bad guy that you root for. The anti-hero sort of in this story.
He's sort of like the bad guy who's doing bad things, but for the most part, you don't really like. It's funny. It's kind of similar to how I think in the early seasons of The Shield, and the Shield writers were always puzzled by this, by the way, that fans really liked Vic Mackey. Yeah. Even though the motivating event of The Shield, the pilot of The Shield ends with Vic Mackey shooting a cop in the face. Spoiler alert. I'm sorry if you haven't seen The Shield, but it's truly a powerful.
No, fuck you.
It's truly a powerful event, and you would, and I think the writers thought, if a character does that, wow, like you can't. How do you root for that guy? But, and again, it's, Michael Chiklis is a charismatic actor. He's a good actor. What they were doing, it's like Vic Mackey was a bad cop, but predominantly he was a bad cop to the right people. It's like when Vic Mackey was like going after the people making like child porn in that one episode, which was called Cherry Poppers, by the way. It's sort of like, you want Vic Mackey to get those people. Like, that's just your visceral human reaction. And I think the writers they had a hard time understanding that. And I think they did a really good job in the back half of The Shield, making Vic Mackey to be kind of you didn't root for him like you did at the beginning. No. I'll say that. But anyway, Boyd follows a similar track in that.
Okay, I have a question. Can I ask this real quick?
You may.
All right. Okay, what's better, The Shield or NYPD Blue? I didn't think it would be close. That was a meme right there.
Well, I haven't seen a lot of NYPD Blue, to tell you the truth.
The reason I want to give, I'll get the short answer is I think The Shield wins out. The reason why I think it's close and why I hesitate, well, it's not close in the sense that like NYPD Blue went for, gosh, I think it was like 11 seasons. Might have been 12 seasons. I don't remember.
13, I believe.
Was it? Oh God, they were on a long time. So what I'm saying is that like NYPD Blue's first 5 seasons are really good. Like really very good. You start getting in like season 6 and 7, you get some good episodes and some troubling things. When you get into the real later years of NYPD Blue, it really does kind of fall off a cliff a bit. The character of I can't remember the actor's name now. Andy Sipowicz was the character, but I can't remember Dennis Franz. There you go. Dennis Franz, was always good in that character. Like he always brought his A game, I thought. But I think because, if you look at the Shield in total, if you look at NYPD Blue in total, there's really good stuff, but then there's really not good stuff. I think that's why the Shield wins out. The Shield is 7 seasons, and I don't know that there's a bad season in the bunch. I mean, there are certainly better seasons than others, but it's not like I would say it was a bad season. It was just that some of the other seasons are so crazy good, the stories and the things going on, that it's tough to compare.
All right, here's another annoying question. You're a big fan of both. Which one do you prefer and why? The Shield or Lost?
I don't know.
As in the overall show, as in everything, for not just because you like a certain part of a show more, etc. etc.
No, I mean I get your question. I think I can answer it and just say Lost,
Okay.
But I would also say that the two they're kind of apples and oranges. I don't know that I would ever compare Lost and The Shield. They do different things for me. To me, Lost is kind of an inspiring show, an exciting show. It's a genre show too, as it turns out. When you really get into the meat of it, The Shield is a cop show, and some people say that derisively. I don't mean it derisively, but it is a cop show. It falls in that genre. We're talking about bad cops, but the thing about The Shield, and whenever I do a rewatch of The Shield, and I haven't done many because The Shield is good of a show it is, as good of a watch it is, there are some rough episodes. And by rough, I mean emotionally taxing episodes. I did spoil the pilot, so I don't want to spoil anything else significant, because I really do think there are people out there who haven't seen The Shield who should watch it.
Watch pilot, so I'm fucked now, so that's great.
Well, but you should. But there's a character in The Shield who essentially gets caught at one point and raped, but not in kind of the traditional way. They basically make him go down on a guy.
Oh man, I love that whole plot line.
And can I get
it was disturbing. I remember, and by the way, this is on FX, and I remember sitting there watching it, and I was watching with my buddies in college, and I had just gotten them into The Shield. By the way, we had mainlined seasons 1 and 2. We're watching season 3, and that's only in the 4th episode. And I remember we were just sitting there in silence, our eyes wide, as this happens to this character. And when it goes to commercial, I remember they just looking at me and go, "What the fuck?" That was their exact reaction.
Well, guys, it's been fun, but I got a date. Her name is season 3, episode 4.
Right. So I'm just saying, The Shield, it's I kind of need to be in the mood for The Shield. I kind of need to be in the mood for Lost. But I guess what I mean to say is it really is apples and oranges. I don't know that I'd compare the two. But if you are saying which show, just taken in whole, do I like better? I do like Lost better.
We're completely noobifying it down for an idiot like me. Is basically what we're doing.
The thing with a show like that is you can't just jump in. I mean, even if you've seen everything, it's something that you want to start at the beginning and finish. I mean, I don't know if you're the same way as I am, Eric, but
I am.
I don't.
Well, particularly with shows like that.
I'm not just going to pick an episode. It's not like a Seinfeld or The Office or something where I can watch an episode on and off. Every once in a while. It's something I get entrenched in, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm watching the whole fucking series.
Yeah.
Now here's another question. Arguably, Lost is your favorite TV show, right? Of all time.
I think emotionally, yes, Lost is my favorite TV show. I think if I try to step outside myself and objectively, what do I think is the best show I've seen and really enjoyed, I think I would say Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I agree there, but I haven't seen that much, so it doesn't hold as much weight. Jay, what about you? I'll ask you some more questions because I'm on.
Let's see. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. That's definitely up there. Curb Your Enthusiasm. I had this ready to go, I think, last week, and I've forgotten some of it. But
Seinfeld, everybody's seen, but I saw the first 2 episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and that shit's funny as hell. Larry David and
and it only gets funnier too, Orc. You got to watch more of it.
That's my stuff right there. I can watch that anytime, anywhere. And that's, it doesn't put you in a bad way when you watch it either, which is like with the Shield, some of that stuff's kind of a downer. So
yeah, like you can, like, because you can binge watch the Shield, but you really kind of have to step away from it for a little while because there's just some dark stuff in it. There really is. And and also too, I remembered watching the final season with my wife, and I had already seen it, but it had been the first time I saw it since the first time. And I forgot, like, I was getting to be exhausted after watching the episodes. Like, people talk about being on the edge of your seat. You are on the edge of your seat in that last season. And I don't, and that may sound cliche, people might make fun of me. I don't really care. Like, watch The Shield, watch that final season. It is exciting television, but also it like turns your stomach too, because there's just some truly dark crap going on. And you just feel like the show is just barreling towards this point of no return. I mean, you could argue they had hit it before then, but there's just some great material, but it's hard. Like you're saying, Jay, it's not, so The Shield, Lost, those are both shows. Like, I can't just like jump in and pick an episode, but
Sure.
it's also, with Lost, I can watch pretty much the whole first season, and it's not like there aren't disturbing things or troubling things or challenging material, but for the most part it's kind of like a fun adventure is the way I'd put Lost, and there's some good mystery there too.
Yeah.
The Shield is it can be dark, kind of stomach churning material. Like, you can't sit with that for very long.
No, I mean, it's obviously probably insanely close, but you said the best overall show you've seen is Breaking Bad. Now,
I
that
think
being
so,
said,
yeah.
that being said, how one thing that's amazing to me about it, and I think like I'm not calling people out, but I'm just saying they should watch it. Like Piz and Cole haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
Like even a few episodes. But one thing that drew me into the show is that it's like the writing of Vince Gilligan is so good. What are there any
Yes.
shows that come close to that? And that's what I wasn't trying to throw them under the bridge. That's what I was just
Oh, no. I would say The Wire, if you've ever seen The
That's what I
Wire,
was about to
or
bring up. That's like my number.
I have a friend and he says that's his favorite TV show of all time. Yeah.
Yeah,
until
right
Breaking
there.
Bad finished, The Wire was my favorite show. But similar to how, like, and again, it's all subjective, but if I'm trying to put some sort of objective wrapper around it, I would say that the reason Breaking Bad supplanted The Wire as my favorite show is that Breaking Bad got better and better and better and better, and that final season,
Yeah.
first of all, I don't think there's a bad episode of Breaking Bad, but that final season, each episode got better than the one before. And
Well, like
the
I said-
ending, like, they stuck the ending. How many shows can you say that? Again, I love Lost, and I like the ending. But there, obviously there's lots of debate about the ending of Lost. Is it good? Is it bad? Did it do enough? Whatever. I think Breaking Bad's ending is pretty universally accepted as, wow, they pretty much brought it home. Whereas The Wire, its final season, while I would watch The Wire more than just about anything on TV. Again, it's still all very good TV. Final season of The Wire, not as strong, especially following its fourth season, which I think is its best season.
Strangely enough, I was about to say the exact opposite of what you just said.
Oh, really? Okay, all right. No, that's what this is about. Let's hear about it.
Opposite. No, I just feel that Breaking Bad kind of lost its touch there at the last season.
Wow.
And
okay.
I know people love the ending. I get that. I don't know, man. It just wasn't there for me.
The main thing for me with Breaking Bad is I mean, I'm obviously more of a TV noob than I am a movie noob, but like watching each episode of Breaking Bad, especially after the first season, once you know who all the characters are and you come to like a lot of them and you know who does what and all this sort of thing, and I'm not making any sense, but you get the general idea. I was like, okay, an episode would end, season 2, episode 3, let's just say, and I'd be like, okay, there's no way they could top this, and there couldn't be any more turns and twists. And then every episode that would progress after that, there'd be more crazy shit that would happen, and it would all tie in together. I'm like, how the fuck? Like when he throws the pizza on the roof, and when he hides the shit underneath the bathroom floor, and then they're like making meth in a tent. I don't know, I probably just spoiled it. Fuck, but you get what I'm saying.
I think people already know that about Breaking Bad.
Yeah. Well, and that's why. And again, I'd actually like to dig into that a little bit with you, Jay. I'm sure we'll have a Breaking Bad show at some point. But
sure. Yeah, I mean,
I just
go down for that.
I haven't seen a lot of that since what was that, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe longer than that now. But I just I don't know, man. It just didn't do it for me. I don't know what it was about it, but it was so much hype around that show too, which I think is what Cole especially. I think Cole kind of stays away from things that are overhyped like that. But when things are hyped like that, generally I stay away too. It's just a natural reaction I have. But when everyone's talking about a show, generally it's pretty damn good. It's not just a fluke. So that is one that I jumped on relatively early.
Like I'm nowhere near Cole's criteria of like all of his movie and TV watching, because he's way more of a film buff than I am, et cetera, et cetera. But the two
Well, I don't think he likes TV much.
He doesn't.
The two things he's got to watch for TV though that he keeps avoiding because they have so much hype or because of other things, Stranger Things and Breaking Bad. He's got to watch those. I know he'd love them.
Yeah, I mean, well, Stranger Things, I think, almost has the more of a feel of like a mini series. So I think we could probably convince him to watch that just based off of that. I mean, again, it's only 7 episodes. It really does play like a mini series or like a mini movie or something like that.
It's like you were saying, man, movies. I mean, like TV is better than movies right now.
Well, that's right. And that's kind of the thing. That's why I feel, and again, Cole's entitled to his, his opinion and what he wants to do. But, for me, I think that's partly why I'm kind of more of a TV guy now, is that I think I've always just enjoyed TV. I've always liked episodic storytelling. Which isn't to say I don't like movies, but to be honest, and again, to bring it back to Friday the 13th, I think that's kind of why I liked Friday the 13th. There were, when I was growing up, there were only 9 movies, but we got more over time. And they're like episodes, you could watch, you watch like this big long thing, and you think about the Friday movies, they're not super long. They're like barely an hour and a half. And I think that's kind of why I always gravitated to them. At least in terms of if I was going to like binge a movie series, like I'd do that with Friday the 13th and with Halloween and with Nightmare. Cause it's kind of telling like the story of these characters over time. And I like that. I think when it's done well, and again, we can have we've had many debates about Friday the 13th. That's not always done well in those circumstances, but at least for me in Breaking Bad, I think that's done well. I think that's done well in Lost. I think that's done well in Game of Thrones. I think that's done well in Stranger Things. I just think that assuming like, and again, this is just me saying it, and again, I'd say it to him, but like I kind of think like Cole's opinion of TV is like more based back in like the kind of crap they had on like in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of past that. When you have stuff like The Sopranos and The Shield and The Wire and Deadwood, and again, I'm naming a bunch of HBO stuff, but there is some really quality. And by the way, I have to note, and I have to get into Deadwood. I have only watched the pilot of Deadwood, but I
need to finish it as well. I think it's 3 seasons.
Yeah, and it didn't. I don't know if it ended on a cliffhanger per se. I don't know if HBO really does that.
It got canceled.
it got canceled. But there's been apparently they're going to try to finish it with a movie, and David Milch is like working on the script for that, or at least he was last I heard.
Shit, I think one of the main guys died recently, didn't he? Wasn't
He did. Yes, I think somebody did die.
Crap, I can't remember who it was, but
Powers Booth.
Powers Booth, yeah.
Yeah, because Powers Booth was on that show.
Like you were saying, like how awesome TV was, and Netflix is hitting it out of the park and stuff, and HBO's been doing it for a long ass time. Like I haven't even seen all of Sopranos and Oz, only a few episodes way back in the day. But like 2 shows that did it, like I realized how great TV is currently, even if it's on like a online streaming service, was Breaking Bad and then Daredevil, and that's what kind of got Cole hooked to TV too, because he was like, "Fuck TV," and then he saw Daredevil, and I was like, "Okay, pretty good."
I love some Daredevil now.
Yeah.
And the thing is though, is that I don't even I like Daredevil, but I have some problems with those Netflix Marvel shows. I enjoy them, and I watch them. I eat them up, and then I mistakenly did that with Iron Fist, and that did not fulfill my expectations. But one of the problems I think that those Netflix shows have is like pacing. It's cool to see kind of the hard PG-13 R-rated content with like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, like Luke Cage, like nailing her through the bed and all that stuff. But in terms of like the pacing of the stories, the only one of those shows that I felt had really kind of told one good solid story throughout the entire season was Jessica Jones. I felt like Daredevil's, both its first and its second season, had these weird lulls around like episodes 8 and 9 where I don't know if they were trying to transition to their final arc or what they were doing, but it always seemed like it kind of runs out of steam at a certain point, and then it does pick up towards the end.
I think a lot of that gets carried to cut in here real quick by
No, go
she was in Breaking Bad too, but Christina Ritter, is that her name? The main actress?
Kristen Ritter.
Christian Ritter, yeah. I think she's really good, and that's one of the reasons why probably you find it as such a good show, because I agree. I've only seen the first 4 episodes though, but yeah.
Of Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
I would stick with it. Jessica Jones, and also too, because one of the things that Marvel always gets hammered over is its bad villains. The heroes are great, but the villains aren't much to remember other than like Loki. The villain, the Purple Man for Jessica Jones, played by the Doctor Who actor. What the heck's his name?
Cumberbatch? Is that who it is?
No. He's Doctor Strange, man.
Doctor Strange. Sorry.
Doctor Evil.
I forget. David. Is it David Tennant? I might have the name wrong. But one of the Doctor Who actors, one that like a big fan favorite Doctor Who, one of those guys, he plays the Purple Man in Jessica Jones, and he's fantastic. Like he gives that villain real pathos, and his kind of back and forth with Jessica. It's really powerful stuff. Again, I'm loath to compare it to like Batman and the Joker in The Dark Knight because that's so good, but it's that kind of thing. I mean, they have a real like animosity and a real kind of back and forth throughout that entire season that's really powerful. I don't, Daredevil never quite reaches that. Luke Cage I actually really liked Luke Cage, but I still thought it was kind of uneven. Sorry, I don't know how the heck we got on all this, but
last thing you're talking about Southern accents. Let's segue into Friday the 13th, but kind of not really, and then go back into another show with a Southern accent. Kevin Spacey is also in House of Cards.
Actually, I was going to bring up House of Cards, like in terms of trying to, I don't know whether Cole would be interested in a show like House of Cards, but that's another show that I think lends itself to episodic storytelling. I just don't know how you would do House of Cards in a movie. Like that story has to be told the way that it's told in multiple parts. I don't know what I think it's like. That's 13 parts.
I have to catch up. I think I have 2 seasons to go.
We started the most recent season, and it is good, but we just things have been crazy, man. Like it's my daughter's birthday, and there's just lots going. There's so much to watch, and not enough time. So
it's only been out for a week. I mean,
yeah.
Week or two,
well, just it's here's how life changes you. Before my daughter was born, I remember Jessica and I watched House of Cards like all in the first weekend. We were done by Sunday night. Same thing with like Daredevil. We watched the whole thing over the first weekend.
I did some of that with Justified too. Like I watched a lot of shows like that when my kids were younger and before we had kids. It's we used to just like chill out on the weekend and we'd watch a whole season in a day sometimes.
Yeah, you can't. It's harder to do that now.
Those days are gone forever, man.
They are gone. Well, they're gone for at least 20 years, and then I don't know.
Not to be a downer, but
no.
I'm writing this all down. Okay.
Yeah, man. You don't need to rush to have kids. And I love my daughter. Don't take that the wrong way. But I'm just saying, like you got to be ready for your life to fundamentally change because it does. But sorry. Actually, let's bring it back to Justified a little bit here because I want to make sure we give it its due.
Tune in next week to Dad Talk.
Yeah. And I don't want to. And again, I don't want to go over long, but I think we were talking before about how Boyd Crowder is kind of the villain of Justified. I was trying to think about it because when you think of it, Boyd was always a villainous character, but what Justified always did, which was kind of interesting and fun, was that Boyd was definitely the villain of the pilot. He, Raylan thought he was a villain at the end of season 1, but really, kind of another character takes on that mantle. And in fact, Boyd kind of partners with Raylan at the end there. And then in season 2, the season 2 actually might be my favorite season of Justified. There's so much about that season that's very good. That's the matriarch of a kind of like a family in Harlan is the villain. Played by
my favorite season.
I forget her name, but she's also on The Americans. This is killing me. I'm normally Johnny on the spot with these names.
She was also in Dexter. She was in something else I saw recently.
Yeah. She was also on that awful show on CBS that starred Will Arnett. Where it's like his parents move in with him, but they're divorced.
Gosh.
The hell was that show called?
Ugh, I don't know.
I don't remember, but it was funny. Like I was seeing commercials for that, and then I was like, flipping over to like old reruns of Justified, and it's like, this is the same actress. She's so good here. What is going on here? But that season's probably like one of its best, one of its most powerful. And then it's like, so Justified, I actually found Justified got better and better and better, and then there was season 5, and then the final season was actually pretty good. But they kind of keep building and building. Like season 3 had a really great villain. But sorry, I'm getting away from the point I was trying to make. Basically, Boyd wasn't even really a villainous character in season 2.
Mhm.
He was kind of still like this, trying to figure out who he was. Like, he was even back digging coal for a while, and he got kind of tied up in some things again. Back in season 3, he's kind of back to his villainous roots. But there's still another character who's kind of come into Harlan from Detroit, which starts setting up this larger arc where like the Detroit mob has a hand in Harlan and drug running and various things. But that villain, played by Neil Madanaho, he was very good. And then in season 4, season 2 is very good, and I think season 4 might be my second favorite, because season 4 just I think that's the one that has Constable Bob, played by Patton Oswalt. I don't know, Jay, if you remember that one or season 3.
I love that character. I think he's really funny. Like
Yeah.
the bubbling the deputy guy.
And oddly enough, Mike O'Malley is kind of the villain of season 4 of Justified. And it's also sort of a different season of the show, where the other shows were always kind of all about like kind of gangsters and crime. Season 4 was, but it really was about a mystery. There was kind of a central mystery of this dead body that fell out of the sky all these years ago with all this drugs. And
Yes.
what was the backstory around that? And, kind of Raylan starts investigating it and kind of figure, in present day, what are the repercussions of that? And then in season 5, Boyd sort of rises to become more of the villainous character again, alongside some other characters from Florida related to kind of another peripheral character.
Yeah, that was an odd plot line there. They were related to Dickie, right?
Dewey Crow.
Or Dewey.
Related to Dewey Crow. And Dewey Crow, by the way, is like Australian. Did you know that?
Yes. He was in that. He was in a horror movie actually.
Yeah,
and,
I saw something about that. I saw him interviewed for something. I was like, wait a second, is that Dewey Crow? He's not even American.
Yeah. We used to joke like every week his hair would be like more fucked up. Like he would have like a mullet, and then eventually it was just like a few hairs up here and like a mullet back here. It was really weird. It looked like he just got caught in a weed eater or something. Like really crazy.
Yeah, Dewey Crow is pretty great. And what's funny is, even though season 5 was definitely not the best season of Justified, problematic in a number of areas, it did feature one of the best Boyd Crowder moments. And I don't know I always forget about this until I'm watching it again. Boyd is in a hotel room with Wynn Duffy, another fantastic character. And with that, I forget, Mary Steenburgen plays kind of like a mob type character tied into some dealings, and she's related into the villain who shows up in season 6. But basically it's looking like Boyd's gonna get killed, because some of the money he was supposed to bring back got lost. I forget the whole plot line, but basically he was gonna get killed, and the Detroit enforcer guy was gonna kill him. And so they made sure he wasn't armed when he came in the room, but Boyd had a pack of cigarettes. And he basically tosses this pack of cigarettes at the Detroit guy, and he'd stuck C4 in it, and he just blows the guy up, and like just the whole hotel room gets like blown to crap. There's blood and guts everywhere, and I always just thought like that was just such a great Boyd Crowder getting out of a jam scene. Just kind of a testament to that character. He's like a cockroach.
Totally,
he always finds a way to get out.
It's like I'm saying. I mean, you eventually root for this guy because, he's the bad guy, but in that situation, he's, someone else is worse.
Right. And then season 6 of Justified got a major coup. Sam Elliott was the villain in the final season of Justified. Without his mustache, though, which was a little weird to me at first, but he turned out to be a pretty great kind of villain character. But sort of, it was kind of like a Lethal Weapon situation where his sidekick, his enforcer, was kind of the more intriguing villain. And by this, I'm kind of thinking of like Mitchell Ryan in Lethal Weapon. Like he's like the big boss villain, but it's really oh God, what's his face? Why can't I think of his name? The dude whose head's all fucked up. You know, Riggs fights him on the lawn at the end of Lethal Weapon. I can't. I'm terrible at names today, but you know, Sam Elliott's character, he's got kind of like a young gun with him, and he's like a quick draw. And Raylan Givens, the whole series has been a quick draw. And you know, you start to see in this final season, like Raylan's a little older, he's a little slower, and you know, kind of the whole season, you know, and again, the way they did it was so fantastic. Like the whole season leads up to this, you know, classic cowboy standoff duel, and you know, I'd actually rather not spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But it's just a very, very good show. Ended on a good note, I thought.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm a little spotty on a lot of these seasons are kind of running together here for me.
Yeah, so season 2 was Mags Bennett and that clan, and that's when we first got her son. You were confused.
Exactly.
There was Dewey Crow and Dickie Bennett.
Yeah, I was getting
Dickie Bennett was just a total, like, that was another great character. Like I freaking hated him, but he was a great character. And then season 3 was kind of when Duffy sort of rose to the top alongside Neil McDonough's character. I forget what his name was.
Robert Quarles.
Robert Quarles. There you go. That was it. And then, like I said, season 4, it had a villain at the end in Mike O'Malley's kind of Detroit mob character, but it wasn't really structured like the other seasons where it was really more of like a mystery trying to find, like Raylan and Boyd were trying to find like money. Yeah. They were both kind of searching all around Harlan for it, and you know, they'd run into each other, and Raylan would like you know, handcuff Boyd to a tree and stuff. But you know, only at the end did it kind of come to a head, and there was sort of a villain emerged. But that was that season, and then season 5 was kind of Raylan got. I'm actually trying to remember that. Really,
season 5 is the one with Michael Rappaport in it, where there are all a bunch of like Louisiana people, I guess.
Yeah, like the first episode is really just down in like Florida, and it's very kind of
Florida,
weird. Yeah. And then, you know, he eventually makes his way up to Harlan, and he gets all tied up with Boyd. Yeah. The thing that threw me about season 5 is that I felt like it really didn't pay off anything from season 4. Because if you remember, and I don't know what, again, it sounds like your memory's spotty on it, but as we're talking about it, I'm remembering this. At the like the whole case that season 4 revolves around, like the case of the drugs and the case of the money and finding the missing man. They keep talking the whole time about this is a career case. If Raylan can bring this case, like this is a career case. This is promotions. This is money. This is all this stuff. And then, you know, it just never. That like season 5 just happens, and they don't really ever bring that up again.
Yeah,
Raylan's just Raylan's on the shit list again. It's like, Raylan, you can't shoot people, and it just really kind of felt like they were just trying to keep the show going, and they didn't want to change the status quo too much, and it really hurt the show. Like season 5 is definitely the weakest of the 6 seasons, without a doubt. Which is why I think they decided to end with season 6, because A, I think everybody's contract was up, but B, I think they kind of knew like we can't just keep. You know, you can't just keep telling the story forever. I mean, I think they probably could have squeezed another season out if it had been, you know, they probably could have worked that out. It probably would have been pretty good, but
it just felt like it was losing steam to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first probably 3 or 4 seasons I think are very solid.
Yeah. See, I mean, the good news is that season 6 I actually thought was very, very good. You know, after the misstep that was season 5, like, you know, I was kind of like, man, especially if this is the last season, you guys got to bring it home. And I thought they largely did. And I even thought the plot line, the story of the final season was actually really interesting, because it's just the kind of thing that as time went on, this became a reality, which is, marijuana became legal in a lot of places.
Right.
So, like the villain's plot of the final season of Justified is actually, again, he's doing bad things to achieve this goal, but it's all legal. Basically, he was trying to buy up property where he was going to grow a bunch of pot
Yeah.
and make legal money. He had come from Colorado where he had made a bunch of money doing that. Now, I guess, and I don't know if this is true that it is legal in Kentucky, or I think it was supposed to become legal. That was like the plot line.
Oh, okay.
The legislature was going to make it legal, so he was getting ready and buying up all this land where he was going to grow it and just, make money out the ass. And so I just thought that was an interesting story and a plot line, and kind of interesting for the villain to pursue it. But there was also this.
Sorry, didn't they basically?
No, go ahead.
There was a few people that didn't want to sell, and they had them killed. And
right. That's where like the villain part comes in, where he was just shooting people to get them out of the way.
Yeah.
And there was some other stuff in there too, because the sort of the parallel track story, and this is where Boyd kind of rose to become the prime. Like this is where he sort of became the primary villain finally after all this time. Raylan, like the marshal's office was finally turning their attention, like, throughout all these years, all this crap that's happened, Boyd Crowder has been, mixed up in it. We got to get him. And so there was like a plot line that kind of brought Boyd and Raylan, to a head at each other again. Ava was mixed up in it. Just lots of good stuff, I thought. I mean, it turned out, I thought the finale was strong. Which again, in this day and age, like, it's sort of flip a coin whether or not the finales are going to be good. Again, I thought the Breaking Bad finale was good. I guess you didn't think it was good, Jay, but
no,
I thought that was.
I'm totally alone there, man. I think everybody pretty much agrees with you totally. It just something about it, man. And I don't really.
No, hey, real quick. When you said it starts going downhill, like at what season? Because they did they split the last season up into 2 parts, so I counted as season 5 and season 6.
Yeah, see that may be part of it too. And I don't like that kind of stuff. It's like when the final book in Harry Potter is like 17 movies or something like that. I don't care.
The Hobbit's 3 movies.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. In fact, I don't even like that The Walking Dead's. Well, again, I don't care because I'm not watching it anymore. But I don't really like why does The Walking Dead need to split its season up like that? Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
There's a part of me that wonders if it's AMC's cheapness, because there was always. I'm sorry, we're getting on to sort of another topic, but it's worth talking about because I did rail against The Walking Dead last week. When Frank Darabont left The Walking Dead, there were all these rumors swirling that it was all about budget and money. And one thing Frank Darabont said, like, I think he actually came out in an interview and said it, by filming in Georgia, they're able to take advantage of a tax credit. And Frank Darabont was like, great, let's use that money and make the show even cooler. And AMC was like, well hold on. Let's us take that money, and then we'll have it, and we'll have that money.
I remember hearing something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's been this kind of history of AMC being cheap. And so I wonder if the reason that AMC splits up Walking Dead, the reason it's split up end of Breaking Bad, the way it's split up end of Mad Men, is there was, I don't know if it's tax benefit or maybe even just their own network budgeting. If they just budget for like 8 episodes within a calendar year for a series versus the full 16 or whatever, maybe that, clearly that would save them money. If they're only paying for, again, just naming those 3 shows, if they're only paying for 18 episodes, or sorry, no, I'm not doing my math right. If they're only paying for 24 episodes versus, 16, like they're clearly that's not going to cost them as much. You know what I mean? I don't know, that this is just a guess I have, but Walking Dead is kind of what got the germ of the idea in my head, is that, there were always rumors that they're cheap with that. And I'll be honest, that's part of why I think some of the later seasons of the show frustrate me so much is I feel like the reason the episodes focus on like just one character or one location or do these weird things is budget based. They can't afford to pay the whole cast for every single episode, or they say they can't afford it. Like I feel like that's part of what's going on.
It's definitely driven by money. I think the rabid fan base for that show, every like 2 episodes there's a huge cliffhanger,
Yeah.
And every 6-8 episodes there's a giant cliffhanger every single time, and it's just that part gets old to me. Even though I understand from the storytelling aspect you have to do that to, I guess, keep the fans coming back.
I know we're supposed to be talking Justified, but is that still the biggest TV show ratings-wise, at least for live viewings, Walking Dead? Is that still number one?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if it's still number one because they felt like last season they took it in the teeth. Like I think they definitely finally they're like some karma's coming back to bite them for some of the little games they've been playing because at the beginning of so basically the episode with Negan I think had decent numbers, but I think it was actually down from the year before. But then the numbers basically fell off a cliff for the episodes after that. It's still high numbers.
fell off.
AMC's not canceling the show, but the numbers definitely took a big dip.
All that bullshit with Negan and the stuff with Glenn, it pissed me off more than anything, and it I still have to see the second half of whatever the last season was, whatever number. But and I may watch those at some point, but I'm not feeling it anymore. I think it's kind of the same as you. I don't think I'm quite as turned off as you are, but
I
remember,
I'm tired of it is all. Sorry, go ahead, Work.
I remember just when it premiered, like I was all hyped and like you could like deadify yourself and all that stuff in like 2009, 2010,
oh yeah,
whatever the hell it was. And I was like, this is gonna be awesome, a zombie TV show.
Yeah.
I watched the whole first season, and then the second season rolls around, and I just couldn't give a fuck less. Not because I hated it, but just because I was like, okay, cool. Like I don't know.
So So what happened in the second season is a number of things. Frank Darabont left. And the room, and so again, he left over money. He left over what they said was, and I don't actually know which of these two things is true. Allegedly, whatever he was filming for like the premiere episode was unusable, or like they went down like a cul-de-sac, and then he realized, no, this isn't going to work. We got to do something else. And the network was like, holy crap, you've already spent all this money doing it. Like we can't just turn it around. And so they and I think they said to him, like, we're not giving you more money, or you got to make it work or something. And that's why he left or whatever. So as a result, season 2 was hurt by, I think they suffered a serious blow to their budget because a lot of it got wasted and then never used. But also because they lost their showrunner. Frank Darabont left, and so there was like he was in the planning for like the first 6 or 7 episodes, and there's probably a lot of stuff that needed to be redone. And just that season, like they're just hanging around the farmhouse, and it's a lot of characters having the same conversations with each other again and again and again.
I think that may have been the first time that they split the thing in two. Also,
well, yes, but that's only because Walking Dead's first season was only 6 episodes.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think it actually improved when Darabont left. Some of those
you didn't like season 1. I actually think season 1's pretty strong.
It's okay. I really don't like season 2, but season 3 and 4 and 5 I really enjoy.
Yeah, I liked season 3. I liked season 4. I forget what season we're in. I think. Oh yeah. Okay, we're in season 7 now.
Yeah, that's what I
think I liked 3, 4, and 5 for the most part. I think it was like season 6 when I really I was already starting to get kind of wary about the show, but I think it was season 6 when I really started getting pissed off about stuff. Like,
me too.
Well, first of all, here's if I have millions of reasons, but I'm only going to give you one. Carol.
Yeah.
They took this character, this woman who started the show being abused by her husband, just this meek little mouse. She needed help doing everything. Everyone had to look out for her, and turned her into like the ultimate friggin' badass who like helps them break out of a cannibal like eating camp and blowing shit up and shooting zombies and murdering little kids and all this stuff she's doing. And then just all of a sudden on the turn of a dime, like they're like nothing like really happened that motivated the character for this change. Just all of a sudden, she just was like, I don't want to kill anymore.
Yeah, what the fuck, man?
I'm going to go away from everybody. Like, what the fuck, man?
What is that town called? That whatever little place they found?
Alexandria?
Alexandria.
Yeah.
And she became like, what it was, she was talking with the guy with the bow staff, the guy from season 1. I forget his name, but, he was the one preaching all this like Buddhism and stuff.
Yeah. And she was arguing against him.
Yeah.
Because like one of my favorite episodes of the show, by the way, is the one where like those savage people raid Alexandria and just start killing people. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah.
And Carol is like and remember up to this point, Carol had been like a spy. She was walking around in
Right.
like her
Right.
her like cooking apron, baking cookies for people. Like, oh hey, I don't like to get my hands dirty. And then she's like running around, like head shooting people and
Yeah.
stabbing people. I was like, this is awesome.
Carol's
And
my
then
favorite
after that
character,
episode,
man.
the show fell off a freaking cliff. Like, I don't know what happened.
She's
after
my
that.
favorite character. But I also like, God damn it, we're talking about Walking Dead now.
Yeah, sorry.
I like
It's all my fault. Just blame me.
I like the arc, like with Rick, because I hated Rick so much the first few seasons when he was just, oh, we can't kill, it's bad to kill, and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I've always been like, look, dude, it's a fucking zombie apocalypse. Like,
Yeah.
you got to fend for your own here. It's
There's
kind of
been
but
there's been interviews given with right. Well,
I love it.
There's been interviews given recently with Andrew Lincoln, and I think even with some of the writers, who have said that, in essence, Rick is Shane now. I mean,
Right.
he's not quite like the asshole, but like in terms of his worldview and the way he behaves, like in essence, like Shane's dead, but Shane kind of won that debate. Like Rick kind of had to be like Shane to survive. And
exactly.
it'd be interesting if like characters would bring that up every now and again. Although I'm not sure who could at this point. I think everybody's dead.
Someone did bring it up. I think after he went crazy in Alexandria and killed somebody, he was just basically freaking out and killing everybody at one point. And I think maybe Norman Reedus or
the thing that kind of bugs me about the show, though, is that like I just feel like Rick was so frustrated in Alexandria, and I actually thought that was a good plot line, but I felt like there was a very simple thing. Like, so they happen upon Alexandria, and it's this paradise. They don't, again, they know there are zombies, but they live peacefully. They've got sustainable water, and everything's great. We just stay in our walls. And Rick's kind of like, what do you, like, you guys got to be ready. Like, you don't know what's out there. And they're just like, oh, you're just, you've been out there too long and whatever. And I just feel like Rick, like, especially like the way they got to Alexandria, I feel like Rick needs to be like, okay, let me explain something to you people. Yeah. We were literally captured and taken to a place where they were going to eat us. They had an entire like industrial mechanism built to capture people, to kill them, and cut them up and eat them. Mm-hmm. And then after we escaped, they chased us down. We ran into this town with this crazy guy who had a tank, and he came up and he blew up the place where we were like, I feel like it's just like, explain what friggin' happened to you. Don't just like walk around all moody and beat people up on the street.
They go to Alexandria and they're doing like therapy sessions.
Yeah. Right. And it's just the thing. It's like, I feel like there was a way of talking to these people. Like, you didn't experience it. Like, clearly you didn't experience it. So it's only my story, but I feel like there's a way of saying, like, I think this way because this is life now. I hate to break it to you. I'm sorry, but this is how it is. People out there are going to like try and kill us for what we have. That's just how, you got to be ready.
You got a bunch of Nerf ball people in here that aren't used to the real world. They've been living their lives as, the status quo since before the apocalypse.
Right.
But
right.
And I get that, and I like, I was just always like, Rick, get in there and just fucking kill whoever and just, be in charge. It's kind of the way I look at it because, that's the world you're living in now, man. If you don't do it, someone else will, and all society's rules, they're out the window now. There is no, we're going to be nice to our neighbor bullshit anymore.
Right. Well, and then the thing that really is what started kind of convincing me, like, I need to stop watching this because it's just frustrating me too much, really was the lead up to Negan.
Yeah.
Because first off, Rick and his crew are hardcore. Like, these people can take on anybody. I really believe that. But I didn't feel like Negan and his squad of people were better because they're better. I felt like they were better because the writers needed them to be better. Like, when you think about the way that season ended, where it got up to the cliffhanger with the, who's going to get beaten with the bat, like, if I'm not mistaken, like, just a bunch of characters all of a sudden lose their fucking mind and do a bunch of dumb things and leave. Like, Carol just leaves, and then Daryl just goes, and then someone else just wanders out.
They're all
so then the whole
cast,
so then the whole cast needs to pile in the camper and go look for him. Even though we know there are these people out there that are gunning for us. Like, why the hell? Like, I don't. The character of Negan should have been awesome. And by the way, I actually do think that what's his face? I say I'm terrible at names right now, but the guy who plays Negan, he was in Supernatural. He was in all tons of stuff. He's a really good actor, and I think he actually does Negan really well. But I'm just disappointed that I don't feel like he was earned. He was better because they needed him to be better. You don't like, and here's a good example. Like on Breaking Bad, Gus was smarter than Walter White. Gus was smarter. The villain of Gus was, but like Walter was just wily and he wouldn't give up and desperate to save his own life and to again he managed to outwit him in the end. But I mean, for the bulk of it, Gus was a worthy adversary, and that was earned. The show earned that character was this good.
Mhm.
And real quick, we'll
Walking
save
Dead
it
did not do that.
We'll save it, obviously, most of it for the Breaking Bad show whenever that.
Yeah, I'd
day
say let's
may
not
happen.
get into too much of it.
But when he's like goes, what does he say? He's like, see the guy who I work for, and then he goes to Los Pollos, and Gus is just like there. He's like, do you like your meal, sir? And he's just like, you're like, is this the guy? There's no way this is the guy.
Well, no, he was just told to go to Los Pollos Hermanos. Like he I forget if he got the hookup from Mike or from Saul. In fact, he got it from Saul Goodman.
Yeah.
But Saul sort of knew him, didn't know him, and he said, "Here, go here, and someone will meet you." And it was all so that Gus could kind of get the measure of Walt.
Would you like some more ketchup for your fries, sir?
Right.
Yeah. and Heisenberg's just like, he's like, what the fuck? And he's just like, well, how's your meal?
Well, then you see him break that cell phone in half. The burner.
Yeah.
He grabs the burner and snaps it in half. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh shit. He's the badass. Here he
Yeah.
is.
I just honestly though, Jay, the part of why I think I like season 5 so much is I felt like so much of the first 4 seasons are just Walt trying to figure out how to do anything. That by season 5, when he actually figures some shit out and he's got like his full confidence. If you remember, I don't know whether you've read this in interviews, maybe you have or not, but they always describe like, what if like Mr. Blue Chips became Scarface? And they were interested in the journey of how that could happen. And I was along for the journey, and the journey was great. But I just felt like there were really great payoffs to things, like when Walt gets those dudes to kind of like give him a piece of, basically he wants them to buy his meth and distribute it, and then he's like, say my name. He's like, and he puts on the hat and everything. Like, I just thought that was just such a badass moment for him.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was just good before everything fell apart. But I just thought that's why I thought, and also just the scene when like everyone found out. Like I thought that was kind of cool. Like I felt like that was earned. Sure. I felt like Walt and Hank facing off was really interesting and well played and It was interesting because I always imagined that like Hank would just get everybody after him, but what I never quite thought about and considered is that Hank will look like a dumbass if his brother-in-law is like the biggest drug dealer in the Southwest, and so he can't do that. Like he has to do it a certain way, and so it kind of limits like how they can attack the problem. I don't know. Again, we've sort of gotten far from Justified again, but I very much I look at Breaking Bad as kind of a template of what to do. I'm wondering, Jay, if this is why you haven't been as enthusiastic about Better Call Saul.
Possibly, man. It's Jesse's arc and their relationship, and Walt almost dying of cancer once again. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just a lot that I didn't like there.
All right, spoiler as fuck. I've only seen the pilot, obviously. Standard orc fashion. The 3rd season is airing now, right? Correct.
Better Call Saul. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost
okay.
done.
So who from Breaking Bad is in it? If I guess we can say spoilers.
Well, I mean,
Really,
there's so many commercials at this point. Like, I don't know that I would spoil anything you couldn't just see by a simple like internet search or just.
No, I mean for other people, I don't give a shit. I hear spoilers all the time. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Well, so Saul Goodman, but you learn that Saul Goodman isn't his real name, which I think people probably assume that wasn't his name, and he might have even said it at one point, like that's not my name. But Jimmy McGill that's his real name. So he's the star of it, obviously. And then Mike.
Mike. Yeah.
Mike is in it. Mike's like daughter-in-law is in it, and his granddaughter, and you get some backstory on that stuff. We get I'm trying to think who else. I mean, the big one this season was like Gus has finally made his appearance. Like Gus kind of showed up. Oh, see, damn it! This is why I didn't want to get into this, because I didn't want to spoil stuff.
I gotta watch it now.
You keep watching, because that will. So, in season 2, they thought they were being clever, and they basically had the first letter of each episode spell out Fring's back. But fans figured it out before they finished the season.
Oh, okay.
and they were like, ah, shit. And so they've kind of joked that like when they were getting ready to do season 3, and they're like, we had to call up like Giancarlo Esposito, who played Gus. It's like, all right, so this is awkward, but we kind of telegraphed that you're supposed to be coming back. And I know you've made no agreement, but we're hoping that you will come back.
He agreed? That's fucking hilarious.
It was part of their plan, but they hadn't had any conversations with him or anything. So they were like, I hope you're going to do this, because if you don't, it's going to kind of put us in a bad spot. And fortunately, he did it, and it's been really good.
How many zeros on that check do you need, sir, to come back?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure to be honest, I mean, again, while I'm sure they're paying him well, from his perspective, because he said this in some interviews, and this has kind of come out, and I think it makes sense. He's like, that character is so good, and the things about him are so great, and the way he went out is so good that it's like, if you're gonna bring him back, like I just want to make sure that it's worth the character. That if we're gonna bring Gus into this, and he's gonna be on it now, the story we're telling, like it's not just Gus to have Gus. Like, we're gonna be doing something good with him. And I don't know. So far, I've been impressed. I mean, he hasn't. It's been good. It's been a good lead up. It's been good, kind of seeing some of these different angles. And then, actually, I'm trying to think of his name. He was like the villain in Breaking Bad, like at the beginning. Tuco.
Oh yeah.
Tuco is in Better Call Saul.
The Mexican drug lord guy.
Yeah. And that's, I think, Jay, I think you've seen up to that point, because I think you said you've seen like seasons 1 and 2
of Saul.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen any. That's Fargo. I've seen season 1 and 2.
Oh,
I haven't seen any of Saul.
Yeah. So Tuco pops in, and then there's a couple of dudes that work for Gus that you see. We finally just got Huel. You remember Saul's big fat bodyguard guy, the big black dude?
Yeah.
He finally showed up, and I was super happy to see him. Yeah, so he popped in.
He's awesome.
And I feel like there's probably a handful of like other random people. They've been actually, from what I've read, they were kind of they've been trying to play it close to they've been trying not to do that too much, like not just like, oh, there's Marie, oh look, there's Hank at Walmart as Saul walks by. Like, they've been trying not to
that'd be funny
like that,
with hair.
Is he playing with his gun in the ammo section, just spinning it around like in the first episode?
Right. They've been kind of trying to add characters that it would be organic for them to appear, and not just do it to do it, but do it and have a reason to do it. And
make it like gluten-free Breaking Bad, kind of.
Right. And so,
Stevia.
It's been first of all, Better Call Saul is a different show than Breaking Bad. I mean, I'll just tell you that straight out. It is. But I don't know that I'd say apples and oranges, but I would say that, they actually did something where Jimmy's, like, when he meets Tuco, they sort of were like, okay, we saw what Walter White does in this situation. Like, if Walter White comes up against Tuco, like, we know, like, he's gonna try to, kill him ultimately. It's like, he's gonna try and beat him in some very obvious way. But what does Jimmy McGill do? What would Saul Goodman do? It's like Saul Goodman talks. Like, so he has to kind of like, he has to approach it a different situation. So I think that's the right way to do it. It's like, if it's kind of like Frasier and Cheers. You have to take that character and you have to show him to us in a way that you hadn't really seen him before, or add more to him that makes him substantial enough for his own story. And I'll be honest, like, after I finish watching Better Call Saul, like, I'm kind of excited to watch Breaking Bad again, because I feel like it'll be interesting to watch Saul Goodman once we've had that backstory. I should also note, and Jay, this should inspire you, we do get little snippets of post Breaking Bad material with him. Not a lot, but there are some tantalizing little things that we've been getting here and there about his life post Breaking Bad.
Which character is this again?
So Saul Goodman.
Okay, yeah.
So, because if you remember at the end of Breaking Bad, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I mean, spoilers are out the window at this point. He went to the Robert Forrester guy who could, make you, give you a new life and put you anywhere and keep you from
Doesn't he
getting
just
caught.
get in a van, or is that something else?
So basically, Saul and Walt have to they go to this guy with their big bucket of money, and it's like he's got to hide them. And so,
oh yeah, he's in the basement. He's like, how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah, so it's like Saul goes basically, and what's funny is what Saul says in Better Call Saul. We get it confirmed that is what happens to him. Like we see that, which I thought was like a nice touch.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But because Saul didn't even appear in the last episode. His final episode was in fact, he might have not even been in the last two. He might have ended with like 2 left. But in any case, yeah, he got like whisked away by Robert Forrester to, live a new life somewhere else. He got fake IDs and he's got to just, play it cool and not get in trouble. But Better Call Saul is very good. It's a different temperament for sure, but I think it's worth it. And frankly, it's almost like 2 shows at this point too, because there's the Better Call Saul part of it, and then there's the like Better Call Mike, because Mike almost has this complete other storyline where he's like doing this stuff with like some of the drug people and meeting Gus, and
which all leads back into which movie?
What do you mean? Oh, Friday 13th?
No. I mean, of course, always. But Beverly Hills Cop. Come on.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's gonna get de-aged like 50 years or whatever. Yeah, but well, we are firmly off topic. So
thanks to me.
Yeah. So Jay, what do you want to leave us with?
To wrap up on Justified.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the show. Jacob Pitts, I really enjoyed. He was the other Marshall, I believe. Was that right? Marshall? Is that the right term?
Yeah, he was one of the other marshals in the office with Raylan. Rachel was the other one.
And he was like a sniper a lot of times too. I liked a lot of the scenes when he would snipe people out and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, great supporting cast. This is something that may piss some people off, but I really hated most of the main female characters in this show.
Even Rachel?
Which one is she?
Rachel was the deputy, the black.
No, not her.
Deputy.
Not her. Mainly what I mean is Ava Crowder. And
you didn't like Ava, really?
His wife was who she must have had another project going the next few seasons because she was only in the first few.
Yeah, Winona. It's funny. I thought Winona was hot as shit, but she was also annoying.
No, I don't disagree with either one of them not being attractive. They just annoy the shit out of me, much like Hank's wife in Breaking Bad. Just nagging, and of course Ava she doesn't know who she wants. Back and forth. She wants Raylan, she wants Boyd.
I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering something, but I don't really think that went on too long. I think she pretty much like went with Boyd and was with Boyd, and only kind of at the end did it become an open question just because of some of what was going on. But for the bulk of the show, like seasons 3, 4, 5.
It always seemed like there was some flirtation going on there between them.
I actually thought she kind of hated Raylan because he kind of like rejected her. So for like a long time, like it kind of seemed like they had a division between them because she wanted to be with him, and then he ultimately ended up back with Winona.
I'm not sure, man. I just.
But whatever.
They both. I mean. Yeah, I didn't like either one of their characters, and they were one of the main things I disliked about the show.
Right.
Because, Winona would show up just to like bitch at Raylan for not being around or buying diapers or some shit. You forgot to buy diapers, and then you wouldn't see her for a season. But yeah, other than that, a really great show. You know, first 4 seasons I think are very solid.
Yep. Orc, what do you got on the docket to be watching here? I've given you lists, man. You got to watch more than pilots, man.
I saw the pilot of Better Call Saul, and of course, because that's all I fucking do. Jay, fuck you. Fucking kill yourself. No, just kidding. No, just kidding. But yeah, I did that again. And the only reason why I do that is just because there's so much I missed, because the amount of slashers I grew up watching, and especially video games I played, I've missed so much shit. And you know, with all the pay channels and Netflix and, you know, stuff like that, you can sub to them at like different times. You know, it's made it easier for me to watch stuff, I guess, is the best way. But Better Call Saul, I want to get back on that. The Wire, Boardwalk Empire.
The Wire's like heroin. Start watching The Wire, like you just aren't gonna stop.
Yeah. Well, that's how I felt with Westworld. I was like, okay, you know, I feel like I'm at a concert standing still right now. And then I was like, okay, well, I got some shit to do, but that was a pretty good hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Is it season 2 of The Wire that switches to it's a completely different group of people? Where he goes to the docks?
Oh yeah, The Wire switch. Yeah, basically season 1 is about the drug, kind of like the drug case, and then it goes to kind of the blue collar workers on the pier. I used to be really down on season 2, and I've actually come to appreciate it more. There are some people who I think season 2 is like their favorite season.
That has balls, man, to do something like that. I mean, with a show that you know, I'm sure was doing well in the ratings.
It wasn't.
Different direction.
The Wire was always ratings trouble.
Oh, really?
That's partly why, even though David Simon, the creator, says this isn't the case, their last season was only 10 episodes. Mm-hmm. And the only I don't understand why they would have had less if they could have had more, especially because that season feels so truncated. There's a lot of things that feel rushed in it. So they always had ratings problems. But to your point of a show with balls, so McNulty was arguably the main character. Like there was like 50 main characters in that show, but you know, McNulty was kind of the one guy that, you know, we sort of followed. But then in season 4, he's hardly in it.
Yeah.
And the show, and that's my favorite season. Yeah. So like, talk about a show with balls. Like, you know, let's make a season of Breaking Bad that doesn't have Walter.
But the only problem with all this though is there's so much great TV. Yeah, true. But it's like, okay, I'm going to watch Better Call Saul. All right, I'm going to have Netflix. All right, I'll have it. You know, a lot of people have Netflix anyway. It's the most sub thing, you know, that people pay for television-wise on the internet. Yeah. But then it's like, okay, well, I want to kind of check out Game of Thrones. Got to get HBO.
But there's so much great stuff on HBO. I would say if you got to have one of those, HBO is the way to go. Because
the top from all the stuff that Bruce and Jay that you have shown me, and just across the board, Netflix and HBO are the two I couldn't live without. Easily.
Yeah,
documentaries, on Netflix, man, movies.
Right. And on Netflix, you can get a number of the series we're talking about. Like Lost is still on Netflix. Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul's first 2 seasons are on Netflix. You know, Stranger Things.
It's like you gotta get a free trial or pay for a month because then Starz has Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and that's a great fucking show too.
But I wanted to watch that show. Yeah, Starz is the one network I've never gotten. Because there's only ever been like one thing I ever wanted to see, and I think it was that. I wanted to see that, but there's never been anything else on Starz I wanted to see, so it just never felt worth it to get the channel for that.
On Starz, there's some pretty good series from what I've heard anyway, but I was saying Ash vs. the Evil Dead.
Yeah. I've got some problems with it, but it's worth it, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're a fan of Evil Dead, it's definitely worth it.
Right.
And then, you know, like for, you know, I haven't gotten it yet, but I was thinking about, you know, getting it for a month. People say like Banshee's amazing and all this other shit. And Corey's a new one. That's all.
I want to say Banshee too. That's been one on my list too.
Yeah.
Oh, some of the Cinemax series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of people say Corey is really good. It's set in the 70s. It's about a Vietnam vet who comes back, obviously from Vietnam, and he's just trying to get in like everyday life, or he's kind of like used as a contract killer or something.
Yeah.
Just as it sounds, Quarry, and that's a lot of people like that.
Qurry.
Quarry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I know is that Eliza Dushku was on one of those series. Maybe she was on that one, or maybe she was on Banshee. Whatever one she was on, she showed her ass, and I saw a picture of that.
Check that out. Let me tell you another good show. You were talking about horror shows. Orc is.
That's. I mean, I'm behind in.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm behind in shows, but horror shows I'm way behind. So what was the show called again? Sorry.
It's called Outcast on Cinemax.
Oh
This
yeah,
is,
yeah, I saw that.
You did see it?
No, I saw that when I had the free trial. I was
This
scrolling
is-
through. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Robert
Yeah.
Kirkman. This is his show that he created.
Uh-oh. I don't know if that's an endorsement or not.
It's very interesting. I will say that much. It's
Okay.
about possession, but it's kind of interesting watch.
Gotcha.
Nice. Well, maybe next week we can try to stay on topic a little better. I had a good time. I think we covered a lot of good topics. We'll need to think through. You know, I mean, the problem is that there is only so much time, but there is a lot of good stuff out there. So, you know, I think if nothing else, you know, Justified's a good show. You know, The Shield's a good show. It'd be nice to dive in deeper with some of these shows, and I'll try and come prepared next time. I think with more honed questions or something like that. But thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it, Jay. You know, again, you pushed me to do this. Can't thank you enough. And then Orc, loved having you around, man. I hope you can join us again.
Yeah, I can sidetrack and run anything into the ground. Lol.
Well,
no, but in the next few weeks we got to do Breaking Bad because that's actually one show I've seen from start to end.
Okay. All right.
And I know you guys have too.
Well, if that's a show you've seen, and it's a show we've all seen, that might be worth doing. Just because, you know, let's let Jay get caught up with Fargo's recent season and Better Call Saul and some of these other things.
Yeah, maybe we can do like Breaking Bad, and then maybe a week or two down the line do Better Call Saul.
That'd be nice.
Because I could get caught up by then for sure.
All right. Well, thank you again, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed us for almost the whole 3 hours, I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed some good TV talk, some good surrealist Twin Peaks talk. Thank you, Cameron, for your your entries on the show. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Good night.
Thanks.